What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Digging Deeper. It's been a little while since we've got back on the podcast series. We've been doing a lot of other podcasts with the PB Master Classes, but it's good to be back in the broadcast. I'll be your host this evening. We got Arrow Bremer and James Dale as the co-hosts, and then we have special guest Robert Lee. How y'all doing this evening?
Doing pretty good. Thank you.
Good. Good.
I'm doing great, guys. It's great to be back on the air. I've been missing it. Welcome to the show, Robert.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, most definitely. That's the funny thing is with the master classes, it's a different kind of podcast, but when you get into the digging deeper podcast, it's just a different vibe. You know what I mean? It's just an amazing feeling. Anything goes, so to speak. That's what I love about the digging deeper podcast. So it's great to be back in. And Robert, yeah, I appreciate you jumping on the podcast, brother, man.
Not a problem. I'm glad to be here.
Definitely. So, as we all know, what is the famous question, James Dale?
Hey, Robert. How'd you get into gold mining? Tell us about yourself a little bit.
Well, it happened back in the late '70s. Dad is in the military, so we traveled quite a bit, and he ended up getting stationed up in Alaska. So as it goes, we're trying to find a place to fish and stuff like that. So we ended up finding this place around the Russian River on the Kenai Peninsula. And there's an old gentleman there that him and his wife would give seminars and how to fish, check for berries, what plants are edible. And he had this class on prospecting, the old style with the old rocker box. And from there, I couldn't get away from it.
So I gotta ask Robert. You're leaving all the juicy stuff out.
I wait for it.
You're leaving the juicy stuff out. So how old were you when you got into gold prospecting? How old were you actually, should I say, when you went over there and was introduced into gold prospecting?
Oh, that's going to be putting my age up there. So that would have been in late 79. So that would have put me, grade school, 4th, 5th grade, somewhere right in there.
Wow. So young buck.
I missed them days.
I think we all do.
No doubt.
I think we all do at this point.
Yeah, there's one time we went down there and somebody told us we could go down there for red salmon during the season, and we new to the area, we tried it out, and they had those seminars. So let's just go see what it's about. And there's this great big old pan or a tub of water out there, and I asked the guys, "What's this for?" "Oh, that's for my class later on this afternoon." I said, I teach how to gold pan. And then of course he had this old contraption. It looked like one of them old rockers for babies back in the 20s. Put the baby in there and rock them to sleep. But it was actually an old rocker box that he had made years and years ago.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, he got me introduced to that. And it's like, well, you hold it with one hand and you pour water and then shake the crap out of it. It's like, how does this work? How does it catch the gold?
So you got introduced into it through that class. From there, how many more years did it take for you to how many more years did it take for you to want to go out on a weekend excursion to try to find it yourself? How many more years approximately would you say it took for you to say, you know what, yeah, I'd like to go and do this on the weekend?
It probably took another 20, 25 years. I did a little bit in the early 90s. I'm young, bachelor. I do whatever I wanted. So it didn't really hit until probably 2009 when it really started sticking and coming back up into my head. It's like, wait a minute here. I missed this. I ain't catching any fish, but I can find gold.
Right. So you got to a point where you were like, okay, well, I'm going to go out on the weekends.
Was there anything that triggered that?
Yeah, exactly.
I was bored out of my mind. It was between fishing runs. I wasn't catching any trout. And I was thinking, what's something else to do? Oh, wait a minute. I remember that one time. So I went out and got some dirt and panned it out a little bit, and it's like, oh, there's a little bit of color there. So it just kind of sparked it from there. I'd get another pan, it was a little bit more. So it's like it just kept feeding the frenzy.
Feeding the fever.
Oh, yeah.
Fever, man. Feeding that fever.
Feeding the
I
fever.
give you. I'll back up just a little bit. When I was first taught, and the guy's name was Al York. He's a very well-known person. Al and Bernice York, down in Kenai Peninsula, and I believe they were missionaries up in the interior around Fairbanks and up in that area. But when he was showing me how to pan and use this rocker box with burlap in there, I got gold fever so bad. And Mom found about this years ago that we had some puzzle rings that we brought back from Turkey when we were stationed there. And I'd break them little suckers up in itty bitty pieces and put them in the pan and slosh them around and look at all the gold. And one day she asked, where's the rings at? It's like, I don't know.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, from there, yeah.
I'm washing them.
Yeah, that's it. I'm washing them. She knew what happened. It's just, I got caught. I had to own up to it later, but I had it really bad then. And then, time went on and just life happened. And probably back in 2009 is when it started hitting again. So, and I just progressed from there.
Well, in back in 2009, when it started hitting for you, Robert, you were just going out with just a gold pan, right? You didn't have any equipment at the time or anything like that.
No. I started out with one of them old military shovels that you fold up, probably from World War II. One of them great big old metal pans. Back in 2009, I quit shooting competition archery in that area because gas prices got too high for travel across the country. So then I was like, well, I'll get into this again. There's something to do. And then it just progressed. And I started finding more color and gold. So I guess my first box was, I'm going to grab some 3/4 inch plywood and some 2x4s, make the box, make it 4 foot
My
long.
first box right there.
Well, and that's one of the subjects that I want to talk about later in the podcast. That in itself as a topic is extremely juicy for me personally because the folks that have saw a couple of your videos that you have, it's just extraordinary what you could come up with. And I've seen some builds in my day, and I tell you what, the build that you have is something that I have never seen. So we'll get into that further in the podcast. But so in 2009, you said you were going out with your pan, you were finding color. Were you starting at that point in time in 2009, were you starting to go out every single weekend, or was it just
no
time?
I would just go out once in a great while, and and then I started finding more and more colors. One of the things that I had a knack for when I was a kid, when Al was teaching me, we'd actually go out and get dirt for the demonstrations, for all the lost the words here, the tourists that would come in. Well, I'd say, well, this area looks good, or this area looks good. And he'd ask, well, why? I said, well, water flows in. So I kind of had a knack from the beginning of finding dirt, that had gold in it. So back to 2009, as I got into better areas, and it just fed on it. I get into better areas, there's more gold. I said, okay, I want more. And it just keeps escalating from there.
Right. So back in 2009, and I got to touch on this subject a little bit because there's so much that I am so curious about, because as we all know, when you first get that color in your pan, you want more and more and more and more. And, you continuously do this thing where you're in a continuous cycle trying to find the next best pan, right? Or the next best clean out, right? So back in 2009, when you were just using your pan, at what point in time or how many years later did you say, I might want to run a machine, I might want to upgrade from just a pan?
That would be probably around 2013. I'd met a gentleman, Ron. He's a really, really good friend of mine, Ron and Shauna. He would be panning in one of the areas that I'd meet him. I'd talk to him once in a while. And eventually we actually ended up working together at a different establishment. And we talk about what we're using, how we're using it. Well, you've got to, if you want to use this to make a little bit of money for, buy extra equipment or a better sluice box instead of plywood. So we, talk back and forth on where to look, what kind of rocks, how the water moves around, and it just fed the frenzy from there. And you can find yourself just sitting at the stream, looking at it quietly, listening to the water, and just watching it boil. And then you go check out those places, and then when you get back to the house and you're done for the day and you're going to bed, it's like, oh, I should have checked that one rock. There was a boil right there. So and just the next time you go out, that's the first place you hit.
Yep. And that's, that's the funny thing is you can go on YouTube or any other freaking platform these days, and see so many different videos of ideas on where to look, this, that, and the other. And one of the things that has always stuck with me is, I believe it was one of Jeff's videos, if I remember right, but it was very, very early on when I first started prospecting, is he was pulling up these weed patches on the side of the bank. And he was like, putting this big old weed patch in his pan and shaking the crap out of it with water. And I'm like, there ain't no gold in that. And sure as hell, there was gold in it. And I just was baffled. And so
where I found my first picker.
And so anytime I go out somewhere and there's, some vegetation like that, I obviously do my research and look around and I start freaking shaking weeds myself. Like I'm not going to lie, and I have found decent gold by doing that, and I would have never thought of that. It's one of those things that you would have never thought,
Those roots, man, they have those fingers, and roots are just like fingers. They want to hold on to
just like miner's blocks, exactly. And with that same subject, me and Robert were talking not too long ago, a few days back, with another topic with the whole fishing situation. If you're an avid fisherman and it's a river, where do those fish sit and try to spawn, or this, that, or the other? You see what I mean?
Those fish guard the gold, man.
Exactly.
Oh, they do. Especially the dollies. That brings back to what we was talking about. Prospector Jess, I believe he's a geologist. I mean, fantastic guy.
Guy's a quote unquote badass.
Oh, I watch his videos religiously, and I try to pick them apart. But there's just one video that I was watching and he was showing how the water boils, and if it hits a rock and it goes around it, how's the water going to flow, and it goes counterclockwise. And he pulled up this little map and he was explaining it, and I looked at that and so I took a picture of it and I turned it sideways and I said, "Oh, son of a bitch, that's my honey hole." So that's one of the places me and Ron was going, and I was like, how did he know about it? It was when he was talking about a totally different area, but I mean, he was a spitting image of our little honey hole spot. And I was like, all right, who did you tell?
That's the thing,
Who's got the loose lips?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, right now in today's age, you have so much information at your fingertips. And it's like, if you take just a small, minute amount of that information and you go to one of your favorite creeks, you're going to look at that creek differently than you ever have.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So with those different types of tips and suggestions is really going to up your game as far as finding more gold in the pan. But to touch back on the subject back in 2009, one last time before we move on. Back in 2009, were you looking into any of the clubs or anything like that, joining any clubs, or was there a specific club that spoke to you, so to speak, that you decided to join and try out?
There was actually one, and it was called the Robert E. Lee Hart Foundation. More gold I got, the better my heart felt. No, back then,
that's the best response that we've gotten on over 20 episodes of the Digging Deeper podcast. I got to give it to you there.
I've never joined a group either. I've always been on my own. I learned on my own,
Right.
So that's cool.
I didn't join any group until probably 15 or 16 for a brief time. And the only reason I left the group is I wasn't getting what I needed out of it. I mean, they were great people and everything. It's just I progressed enough, and what they were offering me, being in Alaska on a different, basically a different planet. If you think about it, most of their stuff is down in the States, and what they offered in Alaska, it just was not in my area, and it wasn't going to help me, further this expedition.
Right.
So I opted out, and I used that money for learning how to weld and making my first 1-inch suction handle. That was a trip in itself.
That's the thing with welding, man. I was like, oh yeah, I'll go buy myself a welder. Went over to the store, and the cheapest welder was like $200-$300. I'm like, damn, okay. And it progressed $700, $800, $1,000, $2,000, $4,000.
Oh yeah.
And I told myself, I said, well, I guess I'm not welding then. I got to find a welding.
Yeah, I mean, I was by that time. My brother had left state, and then he gave me some of his prospecting equipment. He had a blue bowl and some sluice box and stuff like that. So I'd go out there and I'd throw my shovels in. So I was like, well, I see these guys dredging and they're using handles and it's sucking it up, and you don't have to shovel. I'm like, cool, I don't have to shovel, so I can throw it away. I don't need that anymore. So I was like, oh, I got this 1-inch pipe from Home Depot, and I bent it around and I welded my handle, put me some 5/8 water line on there, and it's like, all right, we're doing great. Put it in there, and it's like, well, it's not sucking any water up. I was like, what's the deal? I didn't know there was you had to downsize on that loop to make that jet. I'm thinking, so I had to do some more research, and I actually think Prospector Jess had something in there and is talking about that, the vortex, or how to make the suction portion.
Right.
So I studied it some more and studied some more. So I cut that off and made another one. So that 1-inch suction handle, man, I was pretty proud of it.
No,
But
that's
I went back to my shovel.
That's awesome.
Well, welding pipe is way harder than welding,
Yes.
flat square pieces.
Yeah, for sure.
Any welding we need done, we're going to send it to Robert.
Well, I've got a little bit better since then.
No, we got a quick comment here from Mr. Ronnie Shackleford. He says, what's up, guys? Hey, neighbor Robert Lee.
Howdy.
Mr. Ronnie in the building. Yeah, so now that we have beaten the crap out of 2009, let's go ahead and move forward with it. Yeah, so, you got to a point where you decided, hey, you know what? This is something that I can really turn into something differently than just going out once in a while. At what point, or should I say, what year did you decide, hey, I'm wanting to do this much more than what I'm doing now? How many years did it take, or what kind of triggered you, as Arrow mentioned earlier, what kind of triggered you past 2009 to make it more of something that you're doing consistently?
That would be right around 2012. My wife now, at the time she wasn't, I brought her up to Alaska on vacation and see if she wanted to move up there, and eventually did, and showed her prospecting. And so then it became a family outing. We'd go out every weekend, or when we had free time, we'd have a picnic lunch, go to the river. She'd sit there in the chair, read a book, watch me, the dog playing in the water. I get some gold, and then she'd come over and she'd play with it, help me a little bit, hey, why don't you try over here? That looks pretty good. So it became a family thing at that point. So when I started getting more, and she's, well, okay, you're doing better. It's like, well, I don't really feel like it. You just go ahead. And at that point, I progressed. Was okay, I want to upgrade my equipment. So I decided at that point, in order to upgrade my equipment, whatever gold I found had to make up the difference. I couldn't take it out of my paycheck or hers. It had to pay for itself.
Right.
And you're still public ground at this point.
Ronnie James. He knows the old tourist rocks where they take pictures on Hatcher's Pass. He knows what I'm talking about. I was underneath that bridge religiously. That's where I christened that 4-foot wooden box. And let me tell you, I can pick up anything. I'm stout. I still got piss and vinegar. Yeah, you soak that sucker for about 8 hours and try to pull it up out of the river.
Oh yeah. That's the thing is wood is like a sponge. I mean,
Exactly.
it
Yep.
just soaks that water up, and holy shit, it becomes much heavier than you anticipated that thing being. That's for sure. We got another quick question from your neighbor here. He says, Robert, how's all that paperwork going? We was discussing about night before last. Seemed like you have your hands full with it.
Oh, see, I'm losing hair right there.
I'm gonna say either losing hair or getting more white hair.
Oh well,
That's how it works.
Yeah, time it gets filed, it's I'll have less hair than I have now.
Yeah. So the more gold you get, the less hair you have.
For some reason, it just works that way.
We-
No, I've got. I'll just jump in ahead real quick. I started my APMA paperwork for Alaska for commercial mining. Now that is the step that I'm taking is a step above hobby class. It's where I can actually move some dirt. Now there's several different levels that I have to go through, but I'm at the first beginning stage of the commercial side. So it's the exploratory. So yeah,
Well-
I'm just being introduced to the paperwork.
Well, and we talked about the paperwork for a little while, and how much more complicated it is, and you really got to dot your I's and cross your T's, and once you decided, like I said, once you decided to kind of take that leap and say, hey, I can actually make some money off of this. Were you kind of nervous about the situation? Were you were you excited? Were you kind of how were you feeling when you decided, hey, I can make some money off this? I'm gonna go ahead and jump in.
Be quite honest, I was scared shitless. I mean, I just dropped 6. Well, let's just back up just a little bit. There was a time where I'd lost my job. I couldn't get hired by any places. I'd messed up my shoulder, so I couldn't do archery anymore. And I worked for a place that I absolutely loved. I didn't run the archery counter. I helped quite a bit, and it helped the store. We got to a point where I couldn't do the archery anymore to fill that need because, I mean, I had my own shop at one time.
Right.
So, and I told my wife, I said, I've got this extra money set back from the settlement. I was like, Todd Hoffman and Dave Turner, all of them guys, I mean, they take a chance. It's like, I know what to do. I just need to bring volume. So I talked to her a little bit more. I said, why don't I just go ahead and get a dredge, get the dive suit and all the equipment I need. I know where to go. I know what I'm doing. So I thought.
Like we all do.
Yeah. So I thought, and then just go for it. If it doesn't work, I can always sell the equipment and get my money back, which is true. So I went in the first year, and I go into a public area, and I packed everything in the Explorer, shoved it all in there, and moseyed on up. And got to this one place. Guy asked us, like, where are you going? I said, I'm going up to this public area. He said, no, you're not. It's too much snow. You're not getting through for a while. So I parked at his camp. It was probably another week before the snow was good, but there was a person that came by at that point. This is 2017. It just asked where everybody was. I told them I'm watching camp. They're going to town to get groceries and supplies. And so what are you doing? I said, well, I'm sitting here watching camp. He said, you know who I am? I said, I haven't a clue who you are. I said, okay. So we had a little bit more of a conversation, and she needed the help. So okay, I'll do it. So I've been doing it for 5 years. I got access to several different places throughout Alaska, so it's worked out. But that first year, if I didn't meet this one person and just went to the public area, yeah, I probably could have made at least half of what I did.
Right.
But nowhere near. It would not have put me in the position that I am now, where each year it was like the first 2 years I worked for this person and helped out, and I get to learn the ropes. At that time, I wasn't even diving. I had all the equipment, the suit, the regulators, the whole 9 years. I wasn't even diving. Wasn't getting in the water for that. Wasn't a couple of years later that some people come in and said, "Oh, why aren't you using this?" I've never dove in my life. Come with us. And they come up from the States, and they say, all right, come with us. We've got a 5-inch. We'll hook you up. We'll stand. It's just like, running a snorkel. So they got me in there in the first 5 minutes, and then they cut me loose. I was in there for like 6 hours. Says, okay, you're good. Go run your stuff now. Leave ours alone.
Holy shit!
So
there
you
go.
So ever since then, I was like a fish in the water. I was like, hey, don't bother me.
Yeah, but that's the thing with all that diving gear. Why didn't you decide to? Were you just busy with taking care of that place? Is that why you couldn't use your diving gear and the dredge and all that, or?
Oh, I used the dredge. What I was trying to do is there's certain parts of the time during the week that I had chores and obligations I had to do. The rest of the time I had free time.
Right.
So in my mind, because I didn't dive, I could swim like a fish anyway, but I would just suction dredge. I mean, you got 2 foot of water, you can move the handle around, move your rocks. I'd keep going down and down and down until I actually got to the point where I was using the snorkel and the goggles so I could see and move and I was holding the hose where I'm letting out a 3-4 foot of hose and standing between 2 rocks, straddling it so I can go down. But I was in my mind, I was wanting to do it where everything I could before I had to dive, which in a hindsight, it was probably the wrong way to do it. And with those other 2 people coming in and give me the extra push, nudge and that security, push.
Right.
That's what I needed. Because I'm out there by myself, don't know, never done this portion. What happens if I freak out?
Right. Or something goes awry, for your first time, you panic. And we had, who was that? Brian Wilder. So we had Brian Wilder on one of the podcasts, and that's something that he talked about. I mean, his situation is much more different with temperature of water, how far down he is, but it was basically the same principle. Was he was looking at it as I'm going to naturally panic as a human. You're naturally going to panic. How do I get over that? And it took a few different situations, which were absolutely insane situations for a person to have to go through, for him to get to a point where it wasn't an instant panic. He knew what to do, and
that's the thing about dredging. Yeah. You cannot panic. It's like when you're, for instance, everybody saying, "Oh, I can jump in cold water. I can swim. I fall through the ice. I'm good. I can do all this." I call bullshit. Because I'm in a wet, at that time I was in a dry suit. I had my goggles and I'm in the water. All I did is put my face in the water to cover it. And I'm pretty much holding on to everything. And the water, and that cold water wants to take your breath away instantly. You cough and gag and grasp and gag and you suck in that water. And I was preparing myself for this. Right. So it's hard for somebody to say, yeah, I can do this, and never done.
Well, and that's the thing too. That leads to a whole nother ball game with dredging, because I mean, even for your first, second, or even your third time, like you said, 2 feet of water is different than 10 feet of water.
Oh, yeah.
You see what I mean? Because 2 feet of water, you're on your knees and you're having a blast. Oh, it don't bother my legs and my knees and my feet. Oh, it doesn't matter. You get your full self submerged and you're 10, 15 feet down or 9 feet or whatever, however many feet, you're fully submerged in that cold water.
It gets cold.
That's a whole different ball game, bro. We're talking, you got to mentally prepare for that shit. It's not, it's not.
And if you have a little leak in your suit, things tend to shrink. Now, before I went and actually started diving for the first time, I'd went to one of the dive shops down my mother's hometown, and I was talking to her about it, and I was getting my mask and some other extra stuff. And she says, "Do you have insurance?" No. You don't have any diver's insurance or anything like that? I said, "No." Do I need it? I said, "Yes, you do." And I don't know if she was doing this to scare me or not, but she says, "You do realize that you can drown in 5 feet of water, or you can get the bends in 5 feet of water.
Yeah.
Diving. It's like, you can even explode your lung. I mean, if it's true or not, I don't know, but I took it to heart. And so ever since then, I carried Dan's insurance. Solely for that reason. And he's like,
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah.
But if you think about it, if you're diving, or you're using a Hoka system, let's just say you're using the T80 air compressor. It's a low air pressure system, but if you're in, say, 9 feet of water, 5 to 9 feet of water, you take a big gulp of air and you start coming up to pop up. Aren't you breathing compressed air before you pop up? You could explode. You could explode your lungs or do some type of damage.
Right.
So,
And that's the thing that we've talked about a few times on the podcast is the whole dredging situation. If you're wanting to get into it, check out a lot of the podcasts we have with some of the dredgers. Joe Brickner, Brian Wilder. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Yeah, and
you
if
got to
you're
do
gonna
the research.
Yes, you got to do it.
Yes, that's it.
Big time. There it is. You got to do it big time because it's not like you're going from a gold pan to a high banker. We're talking a whole different ball game with different systems running simultaneously. I mean, that's the funny thing too that we're on this subject because I've never dredged personally, and
you're gonna.
I know, and I'm extremely excited to. It's
a blast.
Yeah, man, you're gonna love it this summer so much, man.
I'm looking forward
There's
to it.
something about being on the bottom. It isn't just the gold. The gold's a bonus, like we always say. And yeah, we want the gold, but there's something, and I know Robert knows what I'm talking about. There's something about being on the bottom and
you're having that fish just swim right by your head.
Zen there,
Yep.
I've never dredged either. I've been down 30 feet scuba diving though, and that was a trip.
Yeah, that's the
water,
thing, man.
The deeper you get, the colder the water gets.
As you go down, it's like, well, I can't see the bottom yet. What's below me?
Yeah,
you got to think.
No, don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that because then that's the thing. No.
Don't watch the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Let me just emphasize something, okay? The thing is with me and with water is if I'm in a river or a creek, I will go as far down as you want me to. You stick me anywhere else, ocean, lake, I am not going further down than probably 3 feet. And you couldn't pay me all the money in the fucking world to do so. Period. No go for me.
Yeah, I used to tube fly fish up in the mountains around where we live, and some of them are, it's flooded. They put a dam on it, they flooded it, and it was a wood valley before. And sure, they cut some of the trees down, but not all of them. And you're paddling around out there fly fishing, and you look down, you can't see the bottom, but you can see the top, and the top like 40 feet of this 400-old tree that's been underneath the water for the last 80 years, and it's spooky. It's a spooky freaking feeling, man.
Yeah.
And I paddle right away from those spots. I'm like, I don't like seeing that.
That's just like years ago. I used to do cliff diving, and back in the Ozarks, they're not cliffs, they're just bluffs, 30, 40, 60 feet high. And there's this one swimming hole.
This guy just said cliff diving 30, 40 feet.
The same thing.
This freaking guy, it's just nonchalant. Yeah, we was just cliff diving 30, 40 feet. That is, what? What?
You've been so sheltered growing up in Spokane, Jared.
Oh, God, this guy.
This is what we do when we live in the rural areas of the country.
This is what we do when we have no time. When we have nothing to do. When we have nothing to do, we cliff dive 30, 40 feet.
Yeah. Do you know how they come up with that Running Man logo?
With what?
Every once in a while you see the Running Man on one of these internet platforms.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
that's the hillbilly Ozarkers. They're jumping off them bluff. It says as I go by in the canoe is floating by. I said, "What's that guy down underwater?" I said, "That's the running man. He didn't check the tree that's down there below. So he's stuck on that limb, so he's just running in water."
Oh Jesus! Holy crap, man!
Yeah, that's probably the last time I jumped off the cliff, bluff,
Jeez
whatever.
Louise.
Open up
That's
your eyes and you see this tree right there where it shouldn't be, and you're trying to get back to the top of the water.
you ain't going nowhere but down, Robert.
That's what I like about Montana.
That's the problem.
The places that we cliff jump, we don't have the trees there. It's the make sure you clear the boulders off the bank.
Or
Yes.
make sure you have enough, or make sure you have enough water to where you don't hit the bottom.
Oh yeah, that's a given. I've grown up on one of the deepest lakes in the country, man. So
Oh,
that
geez.
You haven't been
That's
talking to my
an issue.
wife, have you?
We got a few comments here. Mr. Charlie Moore says, as far as the dredging goes, safety first, get PADI certified.
Patty certified, yeah.
Definitely a very important step. I know that we have some of the guys that we've had on podcasts. They've done things their own way, and as men, typically, we have such a massive head that we don't realize that some of these extra steps could save our life in the next trip or the trip after that. But yeah, I can't stress it enough. And just like the other podcasts we've had with dredgers, make sure you do your full blown 110% research and make
Exactly.
sure that you get certified and make sure that you've talked to guys who've been doing it for years and years and years. Don't just go and get a dredge.
Learn how
Plop
to
the
wear
thing
that
down.
suit before you
And-
even go get in a creek. Go get in a still body of water that's cold.
In a freaking swimming pool. In a
And-
swimming
and-
pool. Just
yeah,
get
and
get
learn how
used
to
to
Use
yeah.
that suit, man,
Yeah.
and stuff like that before you go get in a moving body of water.
Yeah.
and have
Yeah.
and have an escape plan and a way to calm yourself in the situations.
Yeah.
That first year, I was actually running a Seasoft dry suit, and it was for a 6'3" person with size 12 feet. My feet are like 9.5. So I was kind of like Dumbo the Clown in this black Seasoft suit.
Yeah,
Hey,
clippers.
So-
I got the exact
At
opposite
least you can layer up
story.
under it.
I got the exact opposite story. I bought some waders off of Amazon, which I will never freaking do again in my entire life. I got 13.5 size feet. When I went over to James over in Montana, my fucking toes were like this the whole time in probably 25-degree water. When I got home, my toes did not open up for about another 3 or 4 hours. So I learned my lesson. Make sure you try the shit on. Make sure it fits. Don't just pull it out of the package or from the store and say, hey, it'll work. Drive 3 hours to bum freaking nowhere, put it on, and you're extremely uncomfortable. Because I tell you what, it is not a fun experience. I ended up soaking my pocket, which had a lot of my electronics in it. Drove another 2 hours home, extremely pissed off because none of it would work.
He broke his vape.
And I learned my lesson. Hey, don't buy shit. For one, don't buy shit off of Amazon. Support your locals. Secondly, don't buy stuff without trying it on, because if it doesn't fit, you're going to be pissed off that you spent the money on it. That's for damn
especially
sure.
if you're 30 miles out in the middle of nowhere, and it's like it's
Or
going to
you,
take.
or you drive 2.5 hours, go in a creek that's 5 degrees,
And 30
You're-
miles from the closest town.
30
Yep.
miles from the closest town. Your toes are curled like this, and all you want to do is see some gold in the damn pan.
You couldn't believe the dust trail he left trying to get back to his hotel that night.
Oh man, that's check your equipment. Try on every single thing that everything that you buy, you purchase. Try it out before
If
you
before you buy online when it comes to a suit, and I've done a good job doing it because I do the research, and I've never had a problem yet. There's this thing called sizing charts and cloth measuring tape. they work really well. Try them out. I mean, my newest dry suit, I ordered that thing. I did the sizing chart, and I just put it on the other day, and I was like, thank you.
Well,
Well, now
the
that
thing
you
is,
make-
the thing is with James is
Don't even.
Dry
Okay,
suits
I'm
are
the
hot
thing is-
dry, I'm hot
dry
thing is
suits are a lot cheaper when
the-
I got
I
tiny
can
feet.
when you buy a small dry suit, it is
Hey.
much cheaper. Okay,
No,
so
come on now, man. I do wear an extra large in a dry suit. Short, an extra large short, but I still wear an
he
extra
does have
large.
size 12
I
feet
think that's
too.
called
Size
teenage.
12. You know I love you, James.
You're
Oh, man.
doomed when we go to Cali and on the road, bro. I'm just telling you now. You're just so doomed.
I know he's gonna get me back on this meet the family road trip.
you can count on that.
I'm already expecting it. I'm ready for it. I've given him so much shit for probably the last 4 or 5 podcasts. It's well overdue for my big ass. I'm sure of it. I don't
just
doubt
wait.
it.
Well, don't feel bad, James. I had my Henderson suit. They did all the measurements and cut it at the factory, and
Uh-oh.
I got one of those newer Farmer John suits. It's like 8 mil. So they get it back. I said, "Is it ready?" He said, "Yeah, but they called me and we discussed your measurements. They wanted to take another 6 inches off your arms. We already cut 3." I said, "What do you mean?" So I put it on in the store, and I literally had to roll my sleeve back. I don't know if you can see my hand here. I literally had to roll it back another 4 inches past my wrist
Oh, shit.
because it was so long. But then I said, "No, let's just leave it like that for now. We'll see what happens." Well, luckily for me, because I can't get my fat arms behind my back to take my suit off, I roll those cuffs out so my hand is covered up, and I can reach around with the other arm, grab it, and wiggle around like a penguin trying to flop on the bank, so I can wiggle out of the exactly, wiggle out of the damn suit.
My last dry suit, I couldn't get in, and I could get into it by myself, but I had to have my bro Lindy there to help me get out. He had to
Oh, that's
peel it
funny.
off.
Hey, you know what? When we finally actually do make a trip up to visit Robert, I'm secretly gonna film his ass taking off his suit.
Oh no! I got one better than that, but we'll tell it later on in the cast here. I'm talking about the bob and butt.
Oh, geez. "Quote unquote" Bob and Butt. We're gonna keep
Yeah,
that.
Stay tuned for the bob
Yeah,
and
make
butt.
sure all you guys heard that very well. We're gonna be bringing that up very soon. Yeah, so we got a few more comments here. Ronnie says, "I jumped off those cliffs my very self." See, I give you guys much respect where respect is due. I've never been afraid of heights.
We come from the generation before helmets on bicycles, Jared, and children children in car seats. And-
That's
What's a helmet?
yeah, exactly right.
right. Well,
Oh,
that's-
that was that
What's a
aluminum foil.
seatbelt?
well, yeah, no, and that's the thing. Like with me, with my era growing up, it was kind of the same thing. It wasn't, full fledged like you guys, where you guys just didn't give a shit. You guys were just gonna do it and have
We're gonna
fun,
do
and there
it.
you go. And if you get hurt, you get hurt.
You get hurt, you recover, and if you get hurt, you get hurt.
Throw a wet towel on it and call it good, right? Yeah, that you know.
Just cut the remaining skin off. Oh, you didn't need that anyway. You had 2 of them.
See, my when I was growing up, it was a slice of that in a sense because we used to do the dumbest shit, man. I mean, if it was building a bike together from alley bob, and we'd go through alleyways and find a rim here and a freaking chain here, and we'd put all that shit together, and we'd be jumping a milk crate with a shitty door that we found somewhere. We'd jump off of that. It was somewhat of the same concept, but I think with my childhood, I think we are a lot more, I guess you could say, a wussy when it came to certain things, because we knew, at that point in time, we had saw, older men split their head open and shit. And at my point in time with my childhood, you know, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't do that.
Oh, you'd have loved the Frankenstein Mongoose 10-speed we used to make.
No.
Yeah, like we go through the alley, get parts and stuff. Oh, we'd have a flat and a 20-inch tire. We'd take a 10-speed tube, stuff it in there, and air it up. So you got this bicycle. It's got a 22-inch rim on the back. You know, it's like a 12-speed rim in the front.
Sitting forward. Yeah, sitting forward. Yeah.
Primary form of transportation when you're younger. I hit a house trying to go around a corner too fast on my bike, right into the bushes, hit the wall, window slides open. What are you doing? Sorry. I had another out in the country going down a hill. Me and my buddy, I looked back. Then I looked forward and I didn't turn, and there's a huge sand berm up into like a little pond, and I sent it way over.
Yep.
I was actually very thankful for the pond because I'm sure something else would have hurt.
I'm sure you didn't want to hit some dirt. That's for damn sure.
Oh, the old duck pond. The old duck pond.
Oh, good times. Great times, man.
Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Let's see. We got a few more comments here. Let's see. CJ Hayes in the building. He says, "Hey, buddies, what's up, brother, man?
CJ.
Good to see you, man." Sergio, he says, I think he says, "I'd love to try dredging one day." Sergio, we're gonna make it happen, brother. We got so many cool things. So many cool things going on with the PB family right now. It's insane. This next season is
stuck
gonna be
on the bottom of the hole, Sergio. Don't worry about that one bit.
Oh, geez. Don't say that. now he doesn't want to dredge.
Yeah, as he asked, do I really need all these weights? Yeah, here, have another one just in case.
Yeah, put another 20 on you. No worries. Let's put another 10 lead on you. We'll call her good.
You want to know how to take that thing off, or you just,
Oh, geez. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm looking forward to dredging. I've seen so many folks do it, and a lot of the guys that I've been able to podcast or even talk through Messenger or phone call, I've talked to them about it, and it's such a different atmosphere. Actually, we have a comment here from Rob, Mr. Rob. He says it's so quiet and peaceful under the water.
Exactly.
And I mean,
what I call the Zen.
Yeah,
exactly.
and it's
you're right.
Yeah, and it's like, when you go out camping, when you're on a gold trip, right? You're going out to go get some gold with your buddies, whatever it may be, and you show up to camp that first day, and that feeling you get, you're unpacking all your stuff. You're like, yeah, this is gonna be badass. I'm assuming that same feeling is the feeling when you start dredging, when you get down there and you're starting to move boulders and this, that, and the other. It's that same feeling that you get, that euphoria of, I'm really doing this. I'm really, you've elevated your gold collecting capabilities, if you would. It's a whole different ballgame. And so I'm excited for it. I'm excited to try it out.
Getting all googly eyed under the material, under the big rocks.
See, that's the problem, is I'm also somewhat of a rock hound. So
Ooh,
I'm gonna be picking.
We don't got time for that.
I'm gonna be picking rocks up and chucking them at James, and he'll be over there collecting them. Like,
no, for me,
we already do that crossed high bankers. It won't be any different.
Oh, geez.
For me, it started out that way. It's like, I go through all the rocks, go through all the dirt, and just back and forth looking at everything. But now that I get under there, I listen to the water going by. I listen to the rocks going through the nozzle, and it's like my mind goes blank. I know what I'm doing. I'm on autopilot. Yeah. I'm just going straight forward on autopilot. When it comes to moving boulders or small rocks, it's automatic. It's almost like second nature at that point. But it's taken me a while. It's taken me a while to get to that point, and it's real calm and soothing.
Right.
And once you get to that great big old yellow shiny rock underneath there, and then all hell breaks loose.
Yeah. Well, you don't think about, that sucked that I just had to fix my truck the other day, or whatever. Life's little little sucky things, you know.
It's gone. It's
things
gone.
that weigh their mind.
Yeah,
Those are gone.
Yeah,
It-
somebody flipped the
it's
switch.
just-
It's gone. It's just you, the water, the sound of the rocks going through. I mean, it gives you time.
it's freedom.
I'm not
It's
yeah, it's
freedom.
freedom, true, but it gives you time, not necessarily to do your zen, but it gives you time to, in your own way, to reflect back on your life. Well, at least for
Reset.
me, reset exactly.
Yeah.
And then how are you going to go from here? What are you going to do? But you're not thinking it, which is the weird part. It's not conversations in your head or how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? It's
Like a
just
subconscious.
exactly,
subconscious,
exactly.
yeah.
Subconsciously, it's going 90 mile an hour.
It's like you see the rock, you know, you got this pile of rocks in front of you, and it gets to a point where when you're first doing it, it's like, gosh, which rock should I move first? You know, and you get to a point where it's like, you know what the key rock is. The one that's holding them all in there, you know, okay, I just got to move these few. And once I move that one, now we're on. And everything's
Good
just going to
gravel.
come out. We'll be right behind us and we're going. And
That's
it's
like
how you
second-
end up
second
talking
nature.
to
you
yourself.
don't think about it. You get to a point that it's
Right.
second nature. It's
Right.
like walking on stairs. You know, the first 3 steps, your body remembers it. It's just, and you go up the steps. And
Yeah.
after 3-4 months of dredging, that's how it happened for me. It took me about 3-4 months of dredging, and that's where I got to that point where I didn't think anymore. It was just do.
So
And enjoy it.
have you gotten to a point when you're under the water where you kind of feel too comfortable? Like you consciously realize that
Hey, I've been down here for 6
I've
hours.
been down here for a little while. I
Yeah.
should probably do a little checkup here on things. Yada yada. I mean, when you dredge, do you have someone above water watching your equipment?
Well, that gets into the other part. I do it by myself, which
Right.
is
You're
really a big no-no. But
That's gutsy.
I don't have anybody I trust enough. I mean, it's the 4-inch dredge. Yes, I very seldom go below 12 feet, but
12 feet still deep though.
you should
And there's
always.
nobody to watch that motor, watching that air being pumped to you or not. So you're not going to know if you're having an air problem until
Right. It's
you
too late.
have
late.
the problem.
And I feel more comfortable doing it by myself because I've had some people there once in a while, tailing it, and I find myself always trying to come up, check on them. If they move the tail ends? How's the airline set up? But if I'm by myself, I don't have to. I know where it is. I know where it's set up. I don't have to move. I don't have to worry about it readjusting itself because somebody's up there moving it.
Right.
So it is dangerous, very dangerous doing it by yourself. But I mean, that's
So
the
are
risk.
you more meticulous in your equipment maintenance because of that?
Yes. I mean, I change my oil every 50 hours. Everything gets cleaned every day. Well, at least the top mat. But, I'm very meticulous on the motors and the moving parts, rolling it up, making sure it's secured. I mean, I'm running 4 tag lines. I got 2 forward and 1 on each side. The 2 forward ones I set high, probably 8 to 10 feet high. So if the water rises or there's a flood or something, as the water exactly, James, as it goes up, the dredge goes up.
Right.
Tag lines are for side to side. Now, the one area where I sunk the dredge this year, one of the tag lines I actually used to go across the water because it was swift enough. So, and that may have had a little bit to play of it sinking, but it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, I'm sorry you brought it up. Now you got to tell the
Yeah,
story.
man, you brought it up. So tell us
How'd
a
you
story
sink the
about your
dredge?
dredge sinking.
Uh-oh.
Well, as some of the videos I showed, I was setting this, set the dredge back behind some bedrock, and to me it looked virgin. I got down probably 6 feet, and it didn't look like it was messed with at all. So I followed the bedrock around into the main channel. And for me, when I do my dredge, every day I'll run 6 to 10 hours, depends on how I feel and what the weather is. And that particular day, I run about 8 hours. I was tired. I cleaned my first mat. I checked my lines. Everything was good. No big deal. Rolled up my lines, put my diving mask on top of the back of the pontoon, which I normally wrap it around the snorkel or something. So if it rains, water comes up, it'll just dangle there.
Right.
I didn't do that. Tired, put my mask down, put my hoodie down, the gloves, put it all on top of there, wrapped up my airline, got my cons, went across, went back to camp. Well, later on that night, it started raining. All right, no big deal. It ain't going nowhere. I mean, it's secure. It can rain all at once. It's not going anywhere. After about 2 days of that, I said, well, maybe I should just go check my dredge. Well, I go down to my first crossing where I had to cross in the truck, and I'm thinking, oh, shit, that's above my rocker panels. I hope my dredge is still there. I look downriver, there's nothing there. I said, okay, that's good. Got up to my dredge. It's like, well, it's still there, but I only see half of it.
Oh,
So I get out my binoculars. I can't really see, so I get out my my telephoto lens and my camera. So I'm zooming in, taking pictures. It's like, well, it's all there. I counted all my counted all my tag lines. They're all there. They're all secured. I said, well, wait a minute. It's half underwater. How the hell is that possible? I said, all the lines are there. It came up, and I was like, well, shit. Well, like I said, it's almost a week before I could get it out.
right.
Once I got to it, 2 years prior, and by the way, there is a limitation on duct tape. 2 years. There's some vent holes on those gray pontoons that Keene makes, and I had covered them up with duct tape, the gray, because I was having condensation, or I was into some rougher water the year before, and it was sloshing in, so I covered it up with duct tape. So I finally got over there and said, well, the duct tape failed. So I got two pontoons saddling at an angle on the bottom, and the other two up in the air, and the motor I thought the motor and the air compression's out of the water, but it actually went under too. But if it wasn't for the tailings that I shoved underneath as I was dredging forward in the river, it would completely submerge the dredge.
Wow.
So when I dredge, if I'm going forward in a river, I'll start a hole. Depends on the area. I don't necessarily go to bedrock. I find my flood or whatever I'm trying to accomplish in that area.
Right.
And then I'll take my rocks and scoot them backwards, kind of like a fish cleaning out a hole. You
Right.
scoot everything backwards and clean. Well, I do that and keep going forward. As I go forward, it fills the hole back in. Well, for me, when I put all those rocks backwards, they was resting underneath the pontoon. So when it sunk, it just sat right on them and couldn't go any further.
You got lucky,
that
man.
Out any better.
Oh, I got lucky.
Holy shit.
Damn right, you got lucky.
So
Holy shit.
I got a hold of a couple neighbor miners, and we crossed the river probably about a quarter mile downriver, walked through the brush and got up to it. We took about an hour to drain the pontoons, got them all ready, and we was lining it downriver. I had my wetsuit on. They was walking the line or the brush line, and I'd guided around the rocks when it gets stuck. And I got to one point. I said, all right, you guys go ahead and get down there and cross over. I had probably 100-foot line on it at that point. I'll just release it and let it go down little by little to where you guys cross, and I'll kind of ease it over to one side. You guys catch it on the bottom. So it took a while, but the best part about that was once we got it to camp and took everything apart. Like I said before, I clean my it's a 3-stage box. I always religiously clean the first stage when I shut down for the day. I'll go through the top on the backside, and I never mess with the bottom until the end of the week. That's where all my finds are.
Right.
So the top, the first section was already cleaned out. So when I get it back to the camp, and I start taking it apart, I looked at a buddy of mine. I said, "Just a bunch of dirt and crap here on the top." I said, "I cleaned that out." Well, we'll just clean it out. So I cleaned out the top mat, which I'd already done. And lo and behold, I'll be damned, there was gold in it from the flood.
Holy shit, man.
So for about a week, bobbing in the water, and that just goes to show what gold is just weird. I mean, I had a completely clean box, and when I got it out, I had gold on that top run. And when I cleaned out everything, when I was putting it back together, I still had 1/8 of an ounce of gold in the whole damn box.
Holy shit.
So I really got lucky.
Gold's crazy stuff, man. It is just some crazy stuff.
That is absolutely insane, man.
That's awesome.
Unfortunately, I don't think myself has that good of luck. I think I would have gotten back and would have saw nothing.
I was happy that he was still there, even if he was underwater. I was happy because that's like
Right.
$5,000. I didn't
Oh,
have
yeah.
to replace it.
Yeah,
I
they're
mean,
not
replacing a
cheap.
dredge is no small feat.
Yeah.
The damn things
Yeah.
are expensive. You're running a 3-stage. Yeah.
And then I
Yeah.
ended up having to call. I actually had to call the company I bought it from, and because my compressor was underwater, so I wanted to know what I need to do to clean it. Do I take it apart?
Right.
You're going to have silt and stuff like that, no matter what you do. So I called him up and got hold of Mark, and he said, "All right, you do this, 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 and this," and I said, "You'll be fine." And I said, "Then you clean out your water separator, and you do this." And I said, "Water separator?" He says,
Oh,
"You
geez.
do have a water separator on your dredge system, don't you?" I said,
No.
no." So
Oh,
he was
geez.
he was telling me how to fix the air compressor, make sure it's all right, and I mean they've been phenomenal for me for service. Then he'd stop a second, and then he'd
Team's
chew
awesome.
me out. He'd chew me out for not having the separator, and he'd get back and okay, check this, check that, and it's like, so 2-3 more times like that. Okay, I get a water separator. So luckily, all I had to do, I flushed it. I had to go through the oil probably 4 times flushing it.
Jeez.
And that just catches all the sediment in the water.
No, the motor actually did go underwater, and when I pulled the drain plug, it was full of water before the oil come out. So what I did, I had to flush it out with fresh oil and additives, run it for just a couple seconds or two, shut it off, and then drain it. So I did that about 4 times to get the system completely cleaned out.
Yep.
And those
Right.
Honda motors, oh my God, they take a beat and they work like a Timex.
Yeah.
So-
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's like when I was talking to Mark about my last dredge, my most recent dredge, he was like, "Well, what motor do you want?" And I was like, "Well, I'm thinking Honda." And he says, "Well, stop thinking Honda and go Honda." And I'm like, "Okay, I got you. I understand right away. Like, it'll last. Yeah, the warranty's great. So if something does go wrong, Honda's gonna take care of you."
this will be the 5th year that I've had that dredge. I had a minor hiccup when I first got it, but that was just because of some glue. No big deal. Like I said, customer service was fantastic. Change the oil religiously, change air filter, clean it, wipe it down at the end of the season, take all the dust and stuff off it. Just do your normal maintenance. If you're going to spend $5,000-$6,000 on a piece of equipment, you want it to last.
Well, that's just like buying a vehicle off the lot. You're gonna do your oil changes, your tranny flushes, you're gonna do those things if you want that to last. Period. You know what I mean?
The
So
last thing I want to do is find another dredge in the next 5 years. That's for darn sure.
yeah, that's for damn sure. So with that being said, let's go ahead and do our 5-minute break real quick. Go grab a beverage, grab yourself a bathroom break real quick. We'll jump back in. We got some pretty awesome comments here that I'd
Yes,
love
we
to
do.
pop up, but we're going to hold those bad boys until we jump into the second part.
Oh, you want to hear
So-
Bob and Bob?
And I think we all want to hear that. That's for damn sure.
Just don't be drinking anything.
So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into our 5-minute break real quick, and then we'll be right back. Go ahead and grab yourself a beverage, grab yourself some food, snacks, whatever it may be that suits your fancy, bathroom break, and we'll be right back in 5 minutes.
See,
Welcome back, everybody, to the second part of the Digging Deeper episode with Mr. Robert Lee. So now that we have gotten our break taken care of and out of the way, we have a few different comments here that I'd love to run through real quick. Let's see here. Charlie Moore, when we were talking about being down while we're dredging, or while you guys are dredging, I haven't dredged yet, so let me rephrase that. Charlie Moore says neutral buoyancy is like being in space. And we saw how NASA trains their astronauts. You know, they get them in a pool with their space gear on, good stuff. Yeah, so yeah. I'm sure it's just an otherworldly feel, for sure. We got another comment here from Mr. Clyde Hall. He says, "How long y'all been doing the show?" I am going to give that to Arrow or James to see if they have it off the top of their head, and if not, we're going to jump into the group growth and improvement chat after we get off the podcast.
I believe, not counting the master classes, I think it's 13.
Let me.
How long or
rephrase
how
it.
many?
How many? Well, we all know how many.
Okay, how long?
How
That's-
long? How many
It's
months?
just, well, I think it's just shy of a year and a half.
Close. Close. Very, very close. 9 months.
9 months. Yeah.
Oh, okay, maybe.
I was counting it backwards. You didn't give me time. I'm like, wait a minute.
They were waiting for me to answer, Robert. That's what they were doing.
Hey, I was
I
gonna,
had
I
an
was,
episode, so I'm like,
I was gonna guess
Um,
7 months, but hey,
That would have
9
been
months
no.
sounds right.
Yeah, nine months, Clyde. We've been doing it for 9 months. We have, to be exact, 23 episodes, including the PB master classes. Jump over to our channel, man. There are so many phenomenal people, down to earth, human to human interactions where we have talked about just so many great topics, just tons of knowledge, extreme knowledge that every single person from the greenhorn to the expert can, take their little slice away from it and learn something new. Make sure to jump over to, if you're on Facebook, jump over to our YouTube channel. Check out all the cool people we've been able to speak to and have such a phenomenal. I mean, we got Robert Lee on the podcast this evening. Come on now.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I mean-
You can also find it on our website. All the episodes are there.
That's
as
right.
well.
That's right.
So
Ah!
there, see,
Okay, so James is putting in the extra effort this evening now. Yeah, jump over to our website, www.prospectingbuddy.org. Jump over there. If you're looking for a buddy in your area, in your states, we have the majority of the states up right now. We'll have the rest of the states up as we go into the season, obviously for 2022. But yeah, jump over there, check out what we got going on. Let's see. We got
don't be afraid to post any comments or questions, because I've noticed here recently some new people that come on board to face or Prospecting Buddy, that there's some information that I can actually use or incorporate in what I do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've been doing this for several years. I'm nowhere near a commercial, or I'm not a big wig. I'm just you guys, just the next level. But there is information that everybody can contribute, no matter what level you're in.
right,
And I try to critique. I look at, say, something James Dale said. I mean, like, for instance, the map I sent you with that circle.
Yeah.
I done my research on, and by golly, that's the old river channel from 25,000 years ago. I found the reports.
that's what I thought when we were looking at that, and and I printed out that I'm looking at it close again, and you're looking at it closely, and
James.
Sometimes it takes just somebody else to look at it, or a different perspective outside the box.
Right.
And you'd be amazed of how much the light will shine.
Big time. And
That's a good reason to, join a club, in my opinion. I belong to a number of clubs, and I can tell you there's at least 2 or 3 people that I find invaluable for information. And it's,
that's
some of them are influential in my local mining community, so it's good to have an ear to that too. So
and I want to touch on that subject just a little bit now that you brought that up. With clubs, and we're not going to mention specific bigwig names, of course, but we all know who they are, and so on and so forth. But with clubs and with the bigger guys, do your research. I can't stress that enough. Do your research 100%. Contact this person that says that they're in this club. Do your research, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of clubs out there that are very, very beneficial. And there's also clubs that are out there just to take what's in your wallet. So mind the miners. Correct. So do your research over and over and over. Don't do research for a couple of days and say, hey, I got this club figured out. No, do your research, contact folks.
I will say that I'm not a part of any national club.
Well, that kind of sticks something out there a little bit, but
I'm just saying.
I belong to one national club, and that's it. And we know that. I belong to AMRA. And I'll push AMRA all the time. I think
I think we all will.
Got a great thing over there.
Shannon is such a phenomenal person. He is extremely down to earth. And the thing that I love about the guy the most, I mean, I have, established such a good relationship with Shannon. He is such a blunt individual.
Oh yeah.
He'll tell you how the hell it is. And if you don't like it, well, oh well.
Yeah. Oh well. So
It is what it is.
But that's what I respect about him.
Yeah. He'll go
is
he'll go above and beyond to help you with any situation you have, whether you're commercial, whether you're hard rock mining, whether you're dredging, you're just high banking, what area you're doing it in, what club you're in. I mean, this guy has been doing it from, A to Z. So, with that being said,
where is that guy?
I know,
It's just
have him jump in here as a surprise.
Watch out!
It's like he made a comment in the other cast about existing roads, and he was showing maps and stuff, LiDAR from 40s and 50s, and showing that there was an existing road. And he quoted, I don't remember what it was. I need to go back and find out what it is, because I think that's actually going to help me in my paperwork.
Right.
Because I have to, for one of the areas, I have to list if I'm going to make a road or reestablish a road or something like that. And I know in one particular area back in the 40s and 50s, when they was bringing the dredge equipment in and going to set it up elsewhere, passing through the area, they had an existing road. I have found it in a public area, but I don't know where it comes out on the northwest side back into the private claims area, which goes right into a portion of my claims. So that's something I've got to research, because I can say, okay, here's an existing road.
Yep.
It was established this year. Here's the paperwork. I want to reopen it.
Yeah.
I don't have
475. You should.
Yeah, I don't have to go to what's the Corps of Engineers and then deal with the DNR. Well, I've got to deal with them all anyway, but still, I can say this was an established road then.
Yeah.
It's on my claim. I want to reopen it as the road and not have to go through the paperwork of, hey, I got to make a new road. This is how I'm going to do it. You guys do to check the codes.
Yep. The whole shebang. Yep.
And how and then you're going to be bonding the dozer and everything to establish a brand new road.
That's the thing.
I'm not even ready for the bonding part. It's like, no.
Robert, the thing I learned from Fred Dickinson: bonding companies. All right,
and that's and we discussed that. Yeah, and we discussed that on the second part of the masterclass with Shannon. Was the whole bonding situation? That's one of those topics that I brought up, and he explained that really, really good. I mean, I don't want to give too much of the goodies away. I'm going to have anybody that's watching that wants to know about that, go and check out that second part of the series, because that was a phenomenal part of the series where he explained so many good things. Specifically
how Jerry took everybody through the maps, man, and how to use that MLRS. I mean, I thought I knew how to use it, and he showed me some things that I didn't know. I was like, this is cool.
And if I'd have had that information when I set up my first claim, I would still probably have half my hair. I mean, I went through, and then when I filed it,
I hear you there, Robert. I totally agree with you.
I was like, I put an X where I should have put Southwest by Southwest, so I had to do an amendment. And I'm thinking, oh crap, somebody's going to file over the top of me, because now they know what I'm doing.
Yep.
So I was like, well, maybe they'll just forget it. Just this is a greenhorn. He's just finding something. It's just swamp water. Just let him have it. No big deal. So I got away with one. I don't know if I can get away with a second.
No, it's Shannon's just a wealth of knowledge, and he's such an awesome guy, and we're very blessed as prospectors and miners to have someone like that to be able to support us and continue the push for our rights and what we believe in. He's a great guy. We have a few more comments here. Let's see here. So we got another one from Ronnie Shackelford. He says, great podcast with awesome people. Love you guys. Ronnie, we love you right back, brother. We love you right back, man.
Thank you, man.
Our whole goal with the podcast is to create friendships that not only last a lifetime, but allow every single one of us to kind of dive into that person's life and really get to know who that individual is.
Yep.
You know, we've talked about this multiple times on multiple freaking podcasts with, you know, you watch a show on TV or wherever you watch it, and it's mainstream, right? And so you only get one glimpse of what they want to portray that person as, right? But when you really get a one-on-one like this, you know, or obviously a quad,
Careful.
whole bunch of guys in a
Careful with what
room.
you say here, because it can really.
No, you are gonna take it that way, is what you're doing.
Yeah,
But-
here I am. Take it or leave it. This is, I mean, there's no sugarcoating here.
Yeah.
But that's just what it is, you
That's
know.
what it is,
And
though, you know?
and I have a freaking phenomenal example with Steve Rydell. So many people looked at Steve Rydell before our podcast as that dude's a lunatic. That dude's crazy.
Total goofball.
He did, yeah. And then a lot of folks watched the podcast and sent me a personal message and said, "Wow, I didn't
Me
know
too.
that that's how he really is, and that's how, you know, he has certain ways of thinking in his thought process, and it's so much more different than the show itself, right? So that's why we're doing these podcasts, is to have you guys dive into these folks' lives and really get to know who they truly are in the ups and downs that they've been through. You know, if you're looking to go from high banking to dredging, if you're looking to go from a weekend warrior to full commercial, you know, Fred Dickinson, Robert Lee. I mean, I can sit here and name multiple folks that break it down and what they've had to go through, the trials, the tribulations, the struggles. You know, that's why we do this podcast. So I hopefully I know that wasn't a question, but hopefully I was able to explain a little bit further into detail as to why we're doing what we're doing.
Well, one of the things that the people, at least for me, what you have to think about and what you want to do is, I started out with a bucket and a shovel and a pan. Okay, no big deal.
Right.
I graduated up to some hand-me-downs and some sluice boxes. Then I made some. Then I said, okay, I want to move some volume so I can make just a little bit more change to, you know, go out on dinner or
pay for stuff.
pay for the next step
Yep.
of equipment.
Right.
And for me, I say that is the ultimate thing. If I want to get a 6-inch dredge, and I really want to get a 6-inch dredge right now, I've been eyeballing them.
Oh, boy.
I looked at it and I'm thinking, honey,
Yeah.
You got to sweeten that pot a little bit, Robert, before you get that 6-inch.
quite a bit more. I think it's called House.
Or it's called Honey Do List. One of the two.
Yeah, and it
Honey,
ends in
we have one more kid to put in college.
honeydew list is house with porch.
Yep.
But anyway, so my rule of thumb is, no matter what piece of equipment I use, whether it be a high banker, a dredge, a rubber mat off the side of the road, and, you know, throw something in the middle of it and throw some dirt on it, the equipment has to pay for the next stage.
Yeah.
So if I want a 6-inch dredge, so I have to make sure whatever I bring in with my 4-inch, or the beast, as you would call it, or the gorilla,
We'll get there.
the profit, so to speak, after the cost and the gas, fuel, breakdowns, pumps, whatever.
Yeah, the monetary
the
aspect.
the monetary aspects, whatever is left is enough to apply towards the next level of equipment.
Right.
Now, I've been fortunate enough, when I got this gig where I'm at now, that I was always told when I first got there, don't lie, be friends with everybody, and help with what you can. And always wait. I've had miners that, you know, through the whole area say, "Hey, you doing? I'm going to town. Do you need groceries? I'm down on. I need a couple loaves of bread and 12-pack of beer or something. Got you covered. No big deal." Or I'll have people pass through and leave stuff off the side and say, "Well, we know you're getting low. You've been in here for 2 months. You got to need something."
Right.
But then I got into talking and said, "I'm running this dredge," and they found out that I got a claim, and I've talked to them different times, a lot of different people, of what I want to go further up. So somebody may say, "Well, come over here. I got this junk over here. I'm getting ready to throw it away. See if you can use it. It's an old sluice box or something." which happens to be the beast, as you would call it. They were going to get rid of it, and I said, well, if you need it, go ahead. You could probably use that an extra run or something like that. You'll figure out something. Well, when I put it together, it was actually a test plant. So for somebody that's using a small excavator or mid-size, they would take that in with their pump, dig a hole or dig an area, test it, run it through to do a bulk sample,
right,
and decide whether or not if it's enough to bring in the major equipment, the wash plants, and do stripping and all that kind of. So I got this wash plant, and then somebody else was seeing it, driving through. So what's that? I said, well, it's given to me, but I've got to find some expanded metal, or I'm short on miner's moss. And they said, well, hey, you helped me change those tires last time I come through, or hey, you sent me a text that one time when some people drove through, because it's a one-way road. I see everything.
right.
So
right.
I'll send a text or something around. Say, come over to my junk pile. And I quote, junk pile. So this one, I needed expanded metal. I said, come on over here. I think I got some stuff. Just whatever you need, just go ahead and get it. I found 4 sheets of 2x4 expanded metal 5-pound, which would work perfect for what I need for this plant. So, and it just another person come through and say, well, I got this junk miner's moss, and just drop it off. This last summer, I was talking about building a conveyor belt. I come back from work one day, and there's a roll of conveyor. There's a roll of conveyor belt sitting right there by the door, and I still don't know who dropped it off.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of people that I have where I'm at now. Is I try to help anybody I can.
Yeah.
I've even went out and tried to go to their places. Hey, I'll watch it. Or I was going through a get together, a dinner, and there was another miner and his grandson is trying to put a bucket on his excavator, and it was twisted. So me and the other guy spent a couple hours there and got his bucket on. So,
well,
that's the person that gave me the expanded. Hell, you have me. Just go to my scrap pile, get what you need.
And that's the thing that I can't stress enough is what goes around comes around, and that's the positivity aspect, man. I mean, I can't stress it enough. Is what goes around comes around. You put good positivity out there, and you don't expect anything in return, and something will come back to you, and it will hit you when you least expect it in such a great way.
Yep.
And
when you need it the most, usually too.
That's the thing. It absolutely blows my mind when I see certain posts in the PB group that we have on Facebook. I see certain little things, and it brings me such joy, because there is still the selflessness. People tend to think that, the economy is this and the this and the that. That still doesn't change the folks that are out there willing to help one another selflessly. That doesn't change continuing that positivity and helping one another. That doesn't change that at all. Just because you have this government or this situation or this happening in your city or that does not change those folks that have selflessly been taking care of other people.
Yep.
That doesn't change that. So when I see those things, it brings me such just massive amounts of joy, because it's like that's what a prospector or a miner or a dredger, or that's what we're about, man, is helping one another. That's
what you created PB, bro.
I was going to say, I can't get into too much detail on this, but the area that I established, the people that come through there, they see what I've done and what I'm doing and how it's changed in the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years that I've been there, and it's a positive impact. And I'm just doing a little bit each year. I mean, there's things I have to do normally, but a little bit each year. I try to do more, and there be times there may be a 6-pack of beer sitting in my water cooler outside, or there may be a note on the door and say, hey, we're having a fish fry, or having dinner, come on over, you're invited. Or hey, come on over, if you want to see our operation, come on over, we'll show you around. So it's not just, well, at least for my area, it's not just the mining itself, it's the positive impact that you're doing in your surroundings.
Yep, the positivity. That's what it boils down to, man. And That's,
keeping
you
our
know,
community strong.
Yes,
exactly. Exactly. And that's, with PB in general, when I first started it, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I'll be 100% honest. I had no clue. All I wanted to do was bring some smiles to a bunch of different faces. And
I think you've done it.
I did,
You've done that in spades, brother. You've done that in spades, okay?
I didn't
Mission
know
accomplished.
Well, I appreciate that, guys. But at the time, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. All I knew is, you know what? I'm going to create this group. I'm going to do, some giveaways and talk to some people and try to spread some positivity. Because when I first got into prospecting, my uncle showed me a lot of different shit that I had never saw, and it had made me feel a specific type of way that I've never felt when you're out in the forest. And he just, there's so many different aspects, because at the time I was young and dumb. I didn't know a whole hell of a lot, how life goes, and rent and bills and children. I didn't know any of it.
Life.
So yeah, life. So when I was introduced into it, and I was introduced into it in such a positive way, and my older brother, is a massive impact with that as well. Is I decided at one point in time, I see these folks talking to each other on all these different pages on Facebook, and what if I come up with a page where it's nothing but positivity, and we just try to create smiles and excitement and this, that, and the other. And of course, my first couple of lives were just absolutely horrible. It was a train wreck. I stuttered every single word. I was stressing. I was sweating. I mean, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but all I knew at the end of the day was I wanted to put a smile on someone's face. And man, I tell you what, luckily, and luckily, by the grace of God, somehow, some way, I was able to make a lot of people's days. They sent me a message, said, "Hey, I know you are an upcomer and this, that, and the other," but they would send me this message, and here I am sitting, sitting on the couch, and I get this message, and it just filled me up with positivity, that I shared positivity, and I received it without expecting it. And so here we are today as Prospecting Buddy and our Prospecting Buddy family that has gotten to where it's at. And it's just such a phenomenal freaking thing. The whole positivity aspect, I can't stress that enough. I really freaking can't.
It's just like me coming on here. I mean, if there's one thing that somebody can take out of this, or for whatever I say or however I set up equipment, if there's one little thing that they can use or they can try on their equipment or their setup, and it makes the difference, or I was fixing to do that and he done it and it didn't work, or this disaster happened, or this happened, it gives you that extra insight before you say, for instance, you had to spend money to get some parts, and
right.
I tried it in the exact same scenario and setup, and it didn't work, and this was my outcome. And you say, "Oh, okay, that didn't work, so I'm not going to spend my money on that."
Right.
But this is what he done to correct it, so it puts them in a better light, and it saves money and it saves time,
right?
And it just kind of gets you a step further in the whole process.
Exactly, and that's with the digging deeper, Sergio. Man, I love that guy to death. He is just an awesome freaking guy. But that bleeds into that same topic. Is we all brainstormed at the beginning, and we're like, I came in, I said, "Hey guys, I'd like to do a podcast where we are able to enlighten the people in the community to be able to make decisions based on, people who are already doing it, people who already have spent the money, people who've already made bad decisions and lost money, and no profits." And good decisions. Yeah, right.
But, or you can text them off to the side, offside, or message them or email, say, "Hey, can you help me? I've got this problem, or it sounds like I'm doing the same thing you did.
Right.
What do you suggest?"
Well,
and just go from there.
Well, and that's the thing, Robert, is we had created, you get tools when you start a group and stuff like that. And I didn't really jump into that a whole hell of a lot, but there's a mentorship tab. And I'm like, okay, well, you hear mentorship, and okay, well, someone's going to mentor you into whatever you're trying to do, lead you in the right path, yada, 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 right? So we had started the mentorship tab, and we actually had an unbelievable amount of folks who actually reached out to the mentors and still have personal relationships with them, whether it be phone calls, Facebook messages. I mean, it blew my mind.
Yep.
And so
I've had a
Still
couple
in
with
contact with people, man.
yeah, dude. And so, it got me thinking, well, shit, a podcast or some type of way where we can go live, and it's all, obviously we're not face to face, but it's still a face to face feel when you're really getting to know someone, right? So we got to talking between all of us, and Sergio said digging deeper. And I'm like, shit, we're essentially digging deeper into that person's life. Let's freaking do it. So, our first couple of episodes, the first guy we had was Shannon from Amra. And I was terrified, shitty camera, the whole shebang. But at the end of the day, I was like, man, this would be such a great idea for people to be in depth with what's going on, different equipment, different mats that are fresh on the market, gold pans, different areas. I mean, the whole works. And here we are over 20 episodes later, and it's been freaking great, man. I mean, we have such a freaking blast every time we get on the podcast.
I have so much fun with it. I
It's
look
fun.
forward to it. I'm like, on Monday morning, the week that I know a Thursday we're going to do it, I'm like, we're doing it, right? Like, I'm like, we
Yeah.
booked our person. We're on, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, yeah. I just love doing the show. It's a blast. And
It is.
I learned so much. I mean, from people, not just about gear. I mean, just life.
Just
you know?
life and what they've had to go through, the struggles, it's
It makes
such,
you not feel
It's the adventure
alone
of it.
in your struggle.
Right,
when,
the
when
adventure.
you're struggling, you're like, man, why aren't I catching that gold? I know I'm on the gold,
Yeah.
but why aren't I getting it? What's going on here? And
yeah,
and it's like Robert said, you next thing you know, like in our situation, we're interviewing somebody and a guest, and they say this one little thing, and it clicks in my head all of a sudden. I'm like, that's my problem.
yep.
Right.
Well,
there.
there's just so many
My
different
gold's
things
not
that
falling out. It's not falling out. That's what's going on. Okay, I got a water problem, and
Yeah.
that frustration's gone. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
someone's been through it. I know what to do now. I don't have that frustration anymore.
Yeah.
Move on. And then I run into somebody or I see a post and someone else is having that problem. And I'm like, hey, this is what I have to say about that. In my opinion, I mean, take it or leave it, but this is what I got to say. And if I can help them, I help them. And it brings that joy. Like you're saying, and I'll get those, and I'll be sitting on my couch and I get that random message and it's just like, yeah, all right.
Well, there's just so much to comprehend in this. I mean, you got so many systems that you've got to have an understanding of, whether that be mechanical, geologic, geographic, and
Yep.
you can't know it all as much as you try. And getting to know people and being able to share that message and content and information on, groups like this one is amazing.
Right. No, I second that 100%.
I want to hear some more Robert stories.
Well, we got a few more comments, and then we're gonna get to the goodies, the juicy stuff.
I like Charlie Moore's comment right here. Your air system should have water separator, particle filter, and one-way check valve. Damn right, Charlie. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
I'm
indeed.
I'm guilty. I'm guilty as charged.
I'm guilty on the check valve. I have my particle filter.
This
my
guy
water
is
separator.
guilty, and I do that every single time. That guy down there is guilty.
On my one-way check valve, I am, and then but I got the other two.
No, that's absolutely awesome. We got
That'll change.
a
By next week, I'll put money on it. I'll change it.
hold on, Errol. What'd you say, bro? He was
That guy
pointing
over
at me.
there, and I don't know any better because neither of us has ever dredged. So
I'm guilty. I'm absolutely guilty. We got another comment here from someone who has been such a big impact in the PB community. Malcolm Roberts. He says, "Hey, PB family, what's up, brother, man?" He
Hey,
is
the
over.
man from down under.
Good, buddy.
he is over in Australia. God knows what time it is for him to be able to be on this podcast. So I appreciate your support, brother man.
I've talked to him a time or two off of the side. I've seen some of the videos he just posted out there.
Yeah.
He's doing a phenomenal job. I don't see how he can go around all them damn snakes, but hey, I mean,
hey, that guy
up in the Iceland, you know, is you don't deal with those snakes. I live with rattlesnakes and others, so it's like
a good snake is a dead one. If it's rattlesnake, it's on my plate.
Amen. Amen. Man, holy crap. We got another comment from Elk Hunter. He says, "Hey guys, first podcast with you guys. Known Robert, my little buddy, for years."
Oh.
You have a big buddy too, huh?
Oh yeah, that's my eye in the sky, buddy.
Eye in the sky.
Yeah, he's kept me grounded and kept me out of trouble more than I can count. And I love the guy, love him to death.
Oh, that's absolutely awesome. We have one last comment here from Sergio, Mr. Sergio. He says, "Sharing the knowledge." Yes, indeed, man. The more knowledge, the better. That's what it blows down to every single time.
One thing the people kind of have to think about too is, are you just going out? If you want to go further, like I'm trying to, do you want to just go out for the weekend with the family, have some fun, get a little bit of color?
Right.
Or are you trying to get a little extra color to say you need some new tires for the truck, or you want to take your wife out to a good weekend dinner and a spa treatment or something extra, or are you wanting to progress it enough to pay bills where, let's just say at some point where
it's your job,
you're financially stable, that is your job, you make
Right.
your own hours, you are your own boss. So at some point, that person, whoever it may be, you're going to have to decide, what do I really want to accomplish?
Right.
What is my goal?
And that's a scary thing. That's a really scary thing, because most Americans, there was a poll that came out, I think it was 5 years ago. It said they had done a study with over 1,000 different individuals who had a full-time 40-hour week job. And over 90, I don't remember the exact number, but it was over 90% said that they would stick with their 9 to 5, because the common problem is we've all been taught
brainwashed job security.
Yeah, man, we've all been taught and brainwashed.
Don't go on an adventure
to stick with these things. And the problem is hey, if that's something you want to do for the rest of your life and have all the other additions, the 401ks, the yada yada yada, then we're not downgrading that, because that's your
choice. That's your choice.
That's your choice.
Exactly.
That's how you want to do it. Yeah,
exactly. So
not for me.
Right. And that's the thing is you're getting to a point where you have a small majority that say, you know what, I want to make my own hours. I want to, instead of paying the big man, pay this big man myself, and I see a big change in that recently. And I know that politics and a whole bunch of other things boil into that, and we've seen a lot of that crap. But aside from that, I've seen it work its different way in such a positive aspect with the mining community. A lot of different new guys are coming out wanting to really learn the ropes, not just watch one or two freaking YouTube videos and say, oh, there's people that are really, investing their time into the knowledge to really make this a full-time gig for themselves, to pay their bills, to make it a career full-time. And that's, I applaud those folks more than I can possibly applaud, because that is such a, like I was saying, a couple of seconds ago, that's a scary thing to think about. When you get to that point, when you transition, when you officially transition, not when you're just thinking about it, because that's not transitioning. When you officially go from your full-time job to dredging is a full-time job now, or this in the, hard rock mining is a full-time job. That's terrifying I don't care
It's
who you
damn
are.
terrifying.
I don't care who you are.
I made that jump last spring, and here I am working a job this winter.
Right.
Didn't go so well last summer. I'll admit it. I'm not ashamed.
Right.
I learned a lot.
Well,
I'm gonna jump right back in again and leave that job behind, and we're gonna go at it again.
And like Fred, and I'm sorry to cut you off there, brother man, but that's exactly what Fred Dickinson said on our podcast that we had with him. Is the same exact thing. Is he said, if my wife hadn't lost her job and then simultaneously I had lost my job,
they would have kept working.
Exactly. And instead, the one thing that they were able to fall back on and actually pay bills and get things taken care of was their claim that him and his son would go out on the weekends.
Yep.
So there's going to be obviously different situations in your life, whether you actually personally make that jump or you're forced to make that jump. But regardless, I applaud you for making that jump, because that is such a scary freaking thing. Even as a grown man, any of us grown men here can sit here and say, well, I make good money each week. I get a good paycheck each week. And now I'm going to completely drop that. And hopefully I come up with somewhat of a decent paycheck from the gold that I receive, the gold that I dig up. You know what I mean?
It's just like I have to step back just a little bit. I had some things happen in my life where I was forced, in a sense, to go forward in this. And of course, there's people in the Gold Rush series that helped with that. I did this. This is, I want to make this change. But underlining, well, that's not the correct term, but I had a support group that I didn't realize that I had. Now, for instance, Elk Hunter, come on. I'm waving at you. He knows it. Yeah, he's going to rub my head bald next time he sees me.
Oh, he will. You ain't going to have no hair on the next podcast.
Right. We talk about life events that has absolutely nothing to do with gold mining or trying to find color or how to read maps. But he was structure for me. Him and his family structure. So, we've talked about, having an archery shop and what are we going to do in our life and how do we proceed? I had the idea from the shows and, giving that extra lead, having the extra money set aside helps too. But at the time, I didn't know that I had this structured support group behind me,
right,
that would talk me through life events, which helped me make this decision. And if I come to a step, it's like, well, I've got in here, I need somebody that's going to give me an honest truth with no BS.
Right.
What did I do wrong? How can I fix this? Or give me some ideas that I can choose
some
from.
Insight. Yeah.
And this man and his family has been outstanding in that aspect. So between that and other, go ahead.
It's the nature of mining. It's just problem solving, and then you mix that with the positive community, and these are the things that happen for you. You get a lot of support from people who think analytically, and whatever problems that you may have going on, that aren't related to mining, that will eventually, for your sake, turned into mining.
It may build your character or build your mental capacity to take that next step, or make you able to take the next step to mining or whatever venture it may be in life. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be about mining, but you still have to have some type of support group, even if you don't realize it. Otherwise,
and that's the thing, and that's the biggest debacle I could say is, mining in its own right is in fact its own situation for an individual. You have to play in all those other factors emotionally, mentally, physically. You have to play in all those other factors with making that leap. If you have other situations in your life that will affect that decision and you still go through with that decision, then your probability is going to be a lot lower than playing in all those other aspects before
Well,
you make that jump.
Here's
Period.
your choices. Here's your options.
Exactly.
If this goes wrong, what is your backup plan?
100%.
Do you have another skill that you can use for a job or
100%.
some type of income? So yeah, there's always that aspect. But
Yeah.
at some point in time, you're just going to have to get off the porch and do what you think is best.
Yep. No, I shit or get off the pot. I'll back that 110%. I mean, all of us, and I can speak for frickin' every single one of us. Robert, you're obviously already there, big dog, but
almost.
well, we'll be getting you on another podcast and you'll be like, oh yeah, so I already see it. But I speak for all of us. I mean, some folks are going to make it and some folks aren't going to make it, and that's the reality of it. That's why you don't see different versions of Gold Rush on multiple freaking big wig freaking places, because gold is not like any other metal where you can just go and get it. It's there's so many different aspects to it. So a lot of folks, unfortunately and sadly to say, are not going to be able to make it.
Gold miners
and this is,
I think, are like the ultimate jacks of all trades, man.
right. And with that, this is why you have to be a prospector, you have to be a miner, you have to be able to read maps, you have to be a geologist, you have to work with biology and wildlife, disturbance of the ground, then
communication skills,
communications.
Yep.
All of this plays into just being a prospector to find color
and to pay bills. Correct. Exactly. So
you have to be conscious of all of that.
Yeah, extremely conscious. And
at some points, you're actually a tree hugger in a way.
Not just wildlife. You got it, Robert. The vegetation.
Exactly.
What trees that we can cut down or even trim a branch on versus what we can't touch. Like where I am, you don't dare touch a cedar. Oh boy.
Well, and that's the thing is, and that's why I was, extremely stressing in a good way, talking with you, Robert, for a couple hours, because I really wanted to get you on a live podcast for people to really see the ins and outs. You are the epitome of a person starting from ground zero all the way up to now you're working to try to get into just that line of commercial, just under it, to where once you find enough and you get a good game plan, eventually you're going to cross that path of commercial and you're going to be commercial. You're the epitome of that situation. And obviously it varies state by state with regulations, rules, yada, yada, yada. But it also varies with, like we just said, communication skills, with reading the ground, with the folks you have in your life. There's so many different aspects on it. And I'm very, very happy to call you a personal friend, because you're able to literally highlight a lot of those different situations that people are going to come across when they're trying to do exactly what you are doing.
And I've made many mistakes along the way. There's this year that I thought for sure I was going to lose a couple of my claims because I put an X where I should have put Southwest by Southwest. I got hit. I double checked and triple checked my paperwork, but I've been working at it for several hours and doing maps and stuff. I didn't do the ultimate thing of step back, take a break, look at it the next day or a week. There was no time constraint. I rushed it, so I paid the price. So I had to pay. I paid a pretty penny on the amendment page. I mean, it's a lesson learned, but
that's the thing.
Sometimes you're going to have those lessons.
Sometimes you got to learn the hard way.
Exactly. No, and that's the
I
thing
mean,
is
I'll
if,
say it how it is. Listen,
and that's the thing though, is if you don't learn those hard lessons as you go, then how are you going to know? How
And
are
I
you
did,
going to know?
and it's like Ron. Like I said, he's a really good friend of mine. He's been down part of this road before, I believe, and I look to him for guidance and try to do paperwork. He said, "Well, have you done this? Have you researched this?
Right.
Are you sure that's right? Maybe you need to go double check that." And he makes me stop and think instead of just rushing through. Because if I rush through something, it's like this paperwork I'm doing right now. It's 30 plus pages. If I send it in, give them $1,000. If it's not right to their liking, they're going to send it back.
Yep.
I have to still pay the recorder's fees each time I submit it. So there's $300 right
Yeah.
there each time I submit it. So I've got to get it right the first time.
Well, as a quick note, don't send it to any of us because we're not going to know.
No,
I worked on it for 3 days, and I had a friend of mine he is a bookworm. He is a wizard when it comes to paperwork. He called me up, says, you forgot to put your city and state that you live in on your paperwork underneath your name.
Oh, jeez.
Oh shit!
They might need that, Robert.
the simplest things that you can leave out, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, we got a few more comments, and then we're gonna get to the juicy here. So we got a comment here. Let's see. Charlie Moore says, "Hey, it is your lungs and your lives to think about, guys, and that boils back down to the dredging situation."
And
I really wanted to highlight that.
That's why I said I'm getting the one-way check valve. I swear, right
Hey,
now.
I'll fund it
They're not that much.
because I'll fund it
Take you up
because
on it.
I'll fund it because my ass will be working that dredge this season. So
I'll send you the link tomorrow.
Yeah, send me the link, brother, man. No, we'll get it squared away.
That kind of brings me back down to I watched an episode of Gold Rush Whitewater one time, and Dustin was talking to, I think, Fred, and he was diving. I think he was diving on his birthday, and they had some particle in the regulator.
I've seen that episode.
And he said he was making a funny sound underwater.
Like yeah.
And he says, "Well, it's fixing to plug up. When it happens, the mask is going to suck to your face."
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, I guess that makes sense. I mean, they're
if I
way
remember
above,
right, they said like 8 seconds or 7 seconds, one last breath.
Something like
you have, yeah.
So you go back to say the hookah or the T80 air compressor, which is low air pressure system,
Yeah.
with no check valve, no water system. When that motor shuts off, you got about 3 breaths, and then if you got a full face mask, it's like you're in a vacuum. That's it.
Yeah.
You either stand up or you better get your butt up out of the water.
Well, and that's the thing too, is you can't hold your breath. You know, when you think about holding your breath, you think about taking a big breath and going underwater. You ain't holding no, but there is no breath to hold.
None to hold. You've already let it out by that time, and now you have none to pull.
Yeah, you realize it's already too late.
Yeah. So we have a few more comments here. Another one from Charlie talking about, once you make that transition, he says 6 months in the Yukon every year takes commitment, but it is well worth it just in the lifestyle for that seasonal work.
Oh yeah, Charlie.
Amen to that, man.
Damn right.
Amen to that.
That's why I said a moment ago, I cannot wait till the day I can spend time in the Yukon.
I just want to dig dirt for a living, okay? Let's just put that out there.
We're getting there, brother.
We all just want to dig dirt for a living and make sure that there's gold in it.
Time out. He just said all I want to do is dig dirt.
Oh, no. Let me rephrase that because we had
potatoes and tomatoes.
Hold on. No. We had hold on. Let me rephrase that. Hold on. No, we had who did we have on the podcast? What's his name? Makes the phenomenal freaking high bankers up in Canada.
Jarvis.
Paul said Paul said, hold on. I'm gonna get freaking blasted for this shit for
weeks. You're nailed already.
I'm gonna get blasted for it, but Paul came up, he said something very specific. He said you can dig dirt and this is kind of a rough just, so don't correct me. he said, you can dig dirt all day, but you're not digging for dirt, you're digging for gold. And that was kind of the gist. He said it in his own way, but so with that being said, let me rephrase what I said. I want to dig for gold all day, not dig for freaking dirt all day. Okay, so
I'm in crawl spaces a lot, and about
that's been cleared. That's been cleared.
couple times a month, I'll be in a crawl space and I'll look down at the dirt and I'll be like, "Oh, I should take a bucket of that."
Can I panic? That's the funny thing is I redid all around the house that I'm living at now with bark, right? And there's one section over to the far right side, and I know for a freaking fact there ain't gold in that shit, but I'm just like, well, I don't have any freaking cons for this winter to run. What if I just ran some of that in my hive anchor just to feel okay until
You might be surprised.
just to feel okay until this season. Like, that's how bad it has gotten for me, where I take out my garbage and I'm looking down and I'm like, well, I might as well scoop some up while I'm at it. I mean, that's pretty damn bad. I mean, that wow, that bleeds.
I metal detected my driveway of tailings. Okay.
Yeah. Back to that free shoveling part. Is I'm pretty sure I can find a tailings pile in the public area that it's got gold in it. I'm sure of that.
Yeah, for sure.
How many yards can you shovel a day?
Yeah, no, it's
just go vacuum it off the bottom. Okay?
It's just
shovels.
It's just such a funny thing that, you know, us prospectors and miners think about. Is just like, you know, in the whole, like I said, the rock hounding situation, when I go out camping and I'm strictly just camping and I see something out of the corner of my eye and I'm like, I got to go check it out, I come back home with more rocks than my pockets can fucking handle. Every time, you know, and I get to a point where I'm like, okay, I got way too many rocks. It's covering my office space. I mean, this is a good example here. Let me just put all these bad boys in my hand and just give you an example of how many freaking rocks that I just keep around me. You know, this is just a small little handful of all the rocks that I have sitting over here. And that's just for the same reason as when I go out, even just camping, you know, I'm not looking for gold. I'm spending time with, you know, my wife and my kids and stuff like that. And, you know, she's having a full-on conversation with me, and she looks over and there I am about a quarter mile down digging on the side of the hill. And she's like, what?
Married now.
She's like, what the hell are you doing? Like, seriously, I was just talking to you. I'm like, well, babe, that you know, I saw something, you know, it's just exactly.
Right on, Arrow.
It's one of those things, you know.
You got distracted by the shiny.
Exactly. It's one of those things with prospectors and miners that you see those different niches, you know, it pops up in your head and you're just like squirrel and you're just gone. You're out looking, you know, it's just one of those things.
That's what got me into gold, was looking for rocks.
Yeah, no, we that's the thing is me and you talked a little bit about it, and unfortunately for me it wasn't just rocks, but the funny thing is once I found gold in my pan, I'm like, what else can I find?
Gold feeder.
Can I find sapphires? Can I find, you know what I mean? It was that extra question, like, okay, well, I'll dig here for just a little bit longer, or dig here for a little, you know.
Well, now that you mentioned that, the first year that I was up in this particular area, while I was waiting for the snow to melt, the guy that I was at his camp said, well, you can go down here at the river. You can put your dredge in down there and just get it tuned up and everything, or pan, whatever. The owner of the claim's not going to mind, which he wouldn't have. So I got a pan down there, and I scooped a big old thing and I look around. It's like, well, there's a piece of quartz. It's like, no, that ain't quartz. It's got oil. Looks like it's got oil crap on it. Crystal clear. So I put it in the jar and I found my gold, went back up to camp. And there was a geologist happened to come through at the time. So I was just showing it around. Crystal clear. He looked at it and said, oh, you found a diamond. I said, say what? I said,
what?
I said, yeah, I found a diamond. It's like, you're pulling a leg. I said, no, that's a diamond. Cool. So I found one diamond, and probably in the course of 4.5, 5 years in this area, I have found 7 low grade rubies.
So, just to say, Robert
So
Lee is
finding
the rock
rocks,
number 2.
garnets. Oh yeah, always look at them garnets. I love the root beer colored garnets, but you never know.
You never know, and that's the
I'm
funny
a
thing.
weirdo, man. I even love devil's dice. Okay, I'm just
Oh man,
Oh, yeah,
Robert,
I got a boatload of them.
yeah,
See, they're not. What I found is not really worth anything because it's so low grade.
yeah, but still.
But it's the idea that I found it. It's like
yeah, and
it's
that's
mine. I did it by myself.
and that's the thing is, where's this big fat chunk of pyrite? Hopefully I can get it on.
You got it.
But I mean, holy shit! I found this and I knew exactly what it was. But you got pieces of quartz in there. I mean, so many different little specimens in there. And when I found it, it was as if I felt like I found gold because I had found it. And I'm like, wow! Imagine the different types of situations that had to happen for that to be what it is. And I mean, we can go on for days and days about finding rocks of all things, but at the end of the day, it's kind of like a personal accomplishment when you find those things. You bring them home, and yeah, they're probably not worth shit, but to you, sentimentally, they're worth a lot because not only do they have their own
Memories, man.
yeah, not only do they have their own
Exactly.
heuristics to them, but it's also from that place that you went to, from that spot you went to with your buddies or by yourself or whatever it may be.
Damn right.
And then it also concretes in a sense too, where you have to be or try to be a geologist. Okay, so if
Yeah.
you're looking for gold, I
And I
found
found this.
I found garnets. I found devil's dice. I
Right.
found low grade diamonds. There's a cluster of coal, blue coal a seam that runs through here. Well, blue coal is. I still haven't got an answer on that one, but
Yeah.
best I found is petrified wood and had blue coal on the inside, and I think it's the sap
Right.
core that actually turns blue. But those things. So okay, if this is here, this is here, this is here, then this item, what I'm looking for, should be in the general area as well.
Yep. That's
It's kind of like a Sherlock Holmes on rocks.
right.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree 100% on that. That's for sure. I mean, the different types of specimens that you find in the area that you're at will basically determine if you have gold in the area or not. And I mean, we can get further into depth with that whole situation, as far as like calcium deposits, quartz, iron, big iron deposits. I mean, you can go in quite a bit of depth with the type of material composition that you get in the area that you're at will determine. And I like to kind of switch this up a little bit because that's not 100% true. It's and on a percentage, and don't quote me on it.
It's a
It's
sign.
it's 60 to 70% true because I've watched videos with a guy we had on the podcast when I was sick, Chris Bogusis. He came up with a couple of damn good videos that didn't have a lot of different types of mineral compositions, and he still found a considerable amount of gold.
Yep.
So, with that being said, when you get into the technical aspect of it, the minerals will help you along your path, quote unquote, to find gold.
Like
And
the
if
clues.
gold,
It guides you to a sense.
right.
Because you're gonna have lodes, you're gonna have veins, then you're gonna have
Correct.
glacier deposits and
Alluvial.
Yeah,
alluvial and alluvial. Yeah, correct. Yeah, so you definitely, I mean, obviously we're not going to touch on that subject because we can spend another hour on it.
Yeah. Let's get into the juicy stuff.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so we have just 2 more comments, and then I want to get into the juicy stuff.
Okay.
So we have one here from Charlie Moore. One more. We have he says, I just love washing rocks for gold in the mats. Well, I
Yep.
think I agree with you there, brother man. Let's see. We got another one from Ronnie. He says, let's see here. He says, ask Robert if he's worked the rec area in Petersville, and if so, how did he do? I see a lot of high bankers there every summer. Are they pulling good gold, or is it just flood gold?
I feel like he knows the answer already.
He does. Look at him. He's determined. He's ready for that question.
Ronnie, call me on the side.
I saw that coming. Robert's like, just give me a call, man. We'll talk about it. We don't need to know.
Are you wanting to put your 5-inch in there?
Ooh, there we go. Now we're getting into a good subject.
There's
More
actually
details.
there's actually another guy on here. I haven't heard from him in a little while. Chris Seabold. He moved up from the States and moved up to Wasilla, and I haven't got a hold of him yet. But I was making a portfolio for him for a couple of areas, so I'm sure I can hook Ronnie up too.
That's absolutely awesome. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into that juicy, good stuff that we've been waiting for. So go ahead and spit the information, Robert.
So, as you all know, that when you have a dry suit, you're supposed to purge, correct? Get all the air out of it. Well, when you're using a triple large suit, and like me, I'm like 5'6", you can't get all the water out.
A regularly large suit that he should be wearing.
Yeah. So there was one day I'm dredging in this hole, and it was actually originally a ditch, and I had 40 foot of hose because I had to put the dredge off to the main river because otherwise it'd just circulate in muddy water, and it was already muddy enough. So I'm sitting in there, and it's about 9 foot. I didn't have the weight belt on. I didn't feel like wearing it that day. So I purged what I thought was purging. So I'm sucking the gravel and stuff up below, and I'm just having a grand old time. And then I'd float up to the top. My feet would stick out of the water like a bobber, and then I'd wiggle like a half-hearted dolphin swash and go back down. The next thing I'd be floating back up, and then my feet would over, my butt would stick up in the air, and I'd bounce back and forth and go back. Well, unbeknownst to me, my buddy and his wife come down to visit with me the weekend. So they'd walk down, and they were sitting on the tailgate of my truck, and they sit there for like 35, 40 minutes. His wife was laughing so hard she just damn near peed her pants, watching me. And once the water was so murky that my feet would come up, I'd bend backwards, bounce back and forth, and the butt would just slosh the water like you're just making waves in it. Then I'd go back down, and a couple minutes later, I'd come back. I'm doing this, and I finally, I guess I'd run out of gas, or every once in a while I'd come up and actually check and see if there's anything around, because, the bears and stuff. And I looked over, it's like, oh, shit, there's people. So
you were like a jerk bait,
Yeah, exactly.
literally.
Yeah. So I get up, and I said, how long you guys are here? And he's wiping tears off his eyes.
Oh.
We've been here for about almost 30, 40 minutes. And the first thing on my mind is, did you take any pictures? No, we felt too bad. We just couldn't do it.
Oh, my God. I would have filmed that.
Here's the guy. He would have taken the damn pictures, and I figure
I would have filmed it. And
I'm the guy, Robert. I'd be like you.
I would have filmed it and sent it personally to James. Personally.
If you would have filmed that, you could have put it on Funniest Home Videos and won the grand prize.
Think about it. You got a streamline of water. You got two legs going like this, pops back out, and then you got an ass that comes up and down.
Yeah, get the camera right here. So you got your feet, you come up like this, then you bend over, and then your butt comes up over further high up as your feet go back down, and you try to wiggle.
A humpback whale.
Oh, no.
I felt really bad. I said, yeah, you guys didn't film this. No, we felt sorry for it. We was laughing too hard.
They got the whole show. That's what that was.
They got the memory. They don't need the video.
So we come down to help you and see what she's doing, but obviously we forgot the
Oh.
popcorn.
Oh man, I would have been rolling so damn hard. I would have just let him do it the whole damn day.
Oh, damn
I-
right.
I would have, when we saw Bubbles, I would have hid behind the truck, waited for him to look around and make sure everything's okay, just for him to go back down.
Well, see, that goes into the second part is because I had chili the night before,
Oh,
so I
geez.
wasn't purging the whole system out. So it was kind of like a losing battle to begin with.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it was.
I bet it was.
When you
talk
come
about
up and-
talk about holding your breath.
Yeah, when you come up and
Thank
try to
God
take
for a
that bag off-
regulator.
Oh,
At
At least you
geez,
didn't have to burn
Louise.
your own hair.
I mean, you're
Oh,
always talking to
wow.
yourself out there. I could just imagine, oh, that wasn't a good choice.
Oh, wowzers.
Oh, it was pretty
Jeez.
bad. That's like, and I don't remember the real reason why I actually come up. And I looked over, it's like, how long you guys been here? Yeah, there's, back to diving by yourself and dredging by yourself. Now, this particular hole, the first year I was running it, and I was only in probably 5-6 feet of water at the time. I'd gone down about that far. I could stand up, my head would actually be out of water. So there's no issues there. But I had a boulder shift on me. It was probably about the size of a small chest freezer. And it rolled and landed on my foot. Well, if it wasn't for the fact that I could stand up and be out of the water by my face, and the fact that I had a size 12 boot, I'd have probably drowned too, because I couldn't go anywhere.
You can
Right.
go
Yeah,
nowhere.
so having a buddy when you're diving or you're dredging is a really good thing. It's like, I don't fear drowning. I don't fear the water. The only thing I fear, and if you think about it, if you're underwater and you can't see,
Right.
you have your bar, you have your hammer, you have all your equipment close by you to prepare, but if you can't see it, it adds that extra then of
Danger.
panic,
Yeah.
and then
Yep.
you've got to calm yourself down to get past that. So I don't condone dredging by yourself, but I do it all the time. But that's just a risk that
That you
I'm
take.
going to, I'm going
Risk
to
you're
take.
willing to take.
Well, and that's the
Right.
thing is, and yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
And that's the thing that I really want to iterate is
And it just takes a split second,
yep,
and
for things
you're
to
in
go
trouble.
awry. And I can't stress that enough. As men, aside from prospecting, buddy, we'll get to that in 2 seconds, but
the ego.
as men, it's your big-headedness. We as men, we think, well, I'm gonna go out here and do this myself, and yada yada yada. And we've been blessed in the last few years, at least, to not see any major crazy casualties. But with that being said,
It
only
just takes a second.
Exactly. It only takes a second for that casualty, and then it spreads across Facebook and all the other social media platforms.
I'll give you another example. When my dredge sunk, and I had my friends come over and help me get it out, my tagline that went across the water is tied to the dredge was still there, and that was my lifeline that I went back and forth on a daily basis to work. I was going to grab that line and walk over across the river, and the river was a little bit past waist deep. I mean, it was manageable, I thought. It wasn't deep,
Right.
but it was swift. And a good friend of mine, he stopped and said, "Robert, don't you dare." I said, "I know what you're thinking. Don't take another step."
Right.
Well, I turned and took another step to come back towards him, fell right on my ass. But I still had to hold that rope. The point being is, that's how fast something can happen. I knew what I was doing. I was aware of my surroundings, and in a blink of an eye, boom, you're down.
Well, and to get to the subject of prospecting, buddy, another thing that I didn't foresee with creating Prospecting Buddy was just that, is having a second person there. Prospecting Buddy, when you hear someone say, hey, do you got a prospecting buddy? Well, obviously it brings multiple things to your attention instantly. Is, hey, do you got a friend that's going with you? Do you got someone looking out for you? Do you got someone digging with you? Do you got someone in the
At
vehicle?
least it's walking with you.
Imagine digging on that cliff that we dug on by yourself.
Do you want
Well,
some
and then-
company for the day? Yeah.
Right, and that's the thing is those kind of things I didn't really think about. I mean, I kind of had somewhat of a consciousness with creating Prospecting Buddy, but we had a few posts in the first year that we had created Prospecting Buddy, and we had, and I shit you not, a couple of search and rescue professionals, guys that do this for a living, going up on the highest of the mountains in multiple states, or whatever in their state. We had them comment on multiple different posts and say, hey, this is such and such with search and rescue in this state, and we completely support Prospecting Buddy and what they're trying to do, for the simple fact that they're trying to make sure that a person has, a friend or a buddy or a family member with them when they're going and doing these things.
Right.
Now that you're talking about that, I just would like to say this really quick. Now it's on my head. Spring's coming. Everybody's excited to get out there and prospect, do their mining. Just remember, everybody, be smart. Don't take that wrong step. The water's going to be swift. It's going to get faster and faster before it gets slower. So let's just remember that, because we're all excited. Everybody's been sitting inside all winter.
Yeah.
Remember that before you go out there. Don't be that picture like last year with a backpack, a pan, a shovel, and a bunch of grass water, and nobody
on the side of the
came back
creek.
from it.
Yep.
Well, I'm sure most of us have had an experience where you either wish you had somebody with you at that moment, or you were glad that you did have somebody with you at that moment. It just takes one time to really scare the bejesus out of you, and then you just you either
most
learn
of us-
from it or you don't.
I'd say probably 90% of us we are not professionals. It's hard to get out of a situation by yourself. Yeah,
Right.
it's always good to have another person or a safety plan. I mean, there's various people that dredge in large dredges, 8, 9, 10, 12, or even in the Bering Sea, that there's safety precautions in place
even before
before
they're
you
down.
even get
Yep.
even before you get into the water. It's
Yep.
like the one place I wanted to dredge this summer. I've been looking at it for 4 years. You two have talked to me about setting anchor bolts and running lines and stuff and how to do it,
Yeah.
but I still don't feel comfortable doing it by myself. I know what's going to happen if I go in there by myself.
Right. And
So I know the gold is there. I know it's a good area. I know the dynamics of how to set things now, but doing it for the first time by yourself and getting into that 2 or 3 levels above what you're dredging now, it's a disaster waiting to happen.
and it
What
will-
can another person think of that you can't?
Exactly. And even, we can take a few steps back from dredging even to panning at the most basic levels.
Slip on shell rock.
and reading the river. You may think that right now at this point in time, the river is super low and you can walk across it and pan your favorite spot. Well, if you stay there just a little bit too long and that river rises, you're stuck there for the night, and you don't have any of your truck. You don't have your truck, any of the gear you have in your truck. If you forgot to bring it, you said, hey, I'm just going to pan this area real quick.
You've watched Libby Creek yourself rise 2 feet today.
There's so many situations, even at the
You
most.
just gotta watch for the chocolate milk. If the water changes color, then you need to start moving.
Well, I'll give you 2 instances, as like James Dale said. Any one of you guys that has dredged or panned or done any prospecting in a mountainous area that's got a creek, All right, so you got springtime. You go out there and you set your sluice box in the river. You get it all nice and set. The flow's perfect. You start working it, and you say you got it started around 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just say noon.
There you're going.
The sun pops out. It's feeling
Right.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, the sun is melting more of that snow from up above you. The water's going to rise. So if you've actually crossed that river, across that creek, and
Yeah.
it's waist deep, and you just barely got across because you pushed your limit at 8 o'clock. Well, at noon, or just say 1 o'clock, you want to go back to your truck to get your lunch. That water may have come up 3 inches, but that 3
Or even
inches,
more.
yeah, it can. But that 3 inches
Just
makes a
3
hell of a
inches.
difference. Makes a difference in whether you can walk.
Yep.
The chocolate water, one of the places that I've had the luxury of dredging. Nice clear day, not a cloud in the sky. I mean, crystal clear. You can see the bottom at 10 feet, no problem. Down there dredging, all of a sudden it gets murky or turns into chocolate, and you got up. It's okay. There's no clouds. It's not raining. Somebody slipped in above me, so you go check. There ain't a soul around. But 10 miles away up in the mountains, there was a slide, or it's raining on the other side of the ridge.
Yep.
And that water is all coming down the tributaries into the main channel, and boom. I was told when I first started there, as the water gets murky and you're in this particular area and it ain't raining, get your ass out, because they have seen it come
It's
up
coming.
8 feet in a matter of short time, and there not be a rain cloud in the sky.
Yep.
Because it all comes from the mountains, from the snow runoff and everything collecting together to hit the main channel.
Yep.
Yeah, ice dams. I've seen in Colorado ice dams where everything's
Exactly.
fine, and then a dam will break and a lot of water will show up out of nowhere.
Yep.
So you gotta kind of do your research before you go to the river, and also there's a place here that's dam controlled, and if you're not paying attention on the days, they do water releases. So
Yep.
you gotta pay attention to that stuff too.
No,
Isn't that around Eisenhower Tunnel? Somewhere around there, don't they have?
Well, we do.
I-
They do avalanche blasting up there, but yeah, it depends. Any of the channels coming right off the divide like that, every spring they flood really hard.
Yeah, the same here
And
in Montana. Coming off the divide, you just don't know what's going to happen. Some of our biggest flood events have just been because of ice dams and what they were holding back. It wasn't even that big of a snow load winter. It was just what they were
Right.
holding back, and it broke. And it just
Well,
devastated.
yeah, and that's
And
that-
then you just got a natural
yeah.
mudslide too that comes down.
Yeah. And that's the thing is always try to have a backup plan for worst case scenario. It is super simple, man. Before you even get in your vehicle to go
Tell
and
someone where
have
you're
that.
going.
Well, obviously, yeah, all those basic principles, but you see, I've seen situations where they tell their mom or their dad or the uncle or cousin or friend or whatever, and hey, I'm going to be here, yada yada yada. I'm going to be here for this amount of time. But when you're there, a lot of folks, they overlook that plan B. They say, hey, I'm going to go here, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and they just simply overlook the plan B because they say, well, I'm not at this area or this state or this region where this could happen, so I'm perfectly fine. Make a plan B. Hey, well, if this happens, what am I going to do? How am I? And it's super simple. It doesn't take but maybe 10, 15 minutes to brainstorm those things. So then what happens is those plan B gets into your subconscious, and then when that plan B happens to be enacted, you now know what to do. That's
You don't
the
have
most
that fright scare.
exactly
Think.
that subconscious state of mind pops into action instantly, and you go with that plan B, whatever it may be, instantly. But instead, if you don't have, go
What's
again,
that?
Arrow.
That goes back to staying calm.
Yeah,
You've got to be calm in unruly situations, because if you let your mind get run away, you're definitely increasing your chances of getting hurt.
Yep.
That's just like popping out of the water. You're dredging, and you look over on the bank, and you're wearing this black suit, and you got a grizzly sitting on the side, just kind of milling around. What do?
Yep.
You have to be calm.
Yep.
You make-
We actually had a comment here that said, "Try being."
Nap down at the bottom.
Well, we got another one here that says from Charlie Moore. He says, "Try being alone, looking up out of the water, and seeing a grizzly bear looking down at you in your dredge hole."
Trying to decide whether-
I put in that's crazy. And
I
then
would have
he
shit
comes
my
back
suit.
with,
I would have shit my suit.
I
Not
took
gonna
a
believe
lie.
it.
nap on the bottom.
I've actually thought about that strategy too, because a lot of times, it doesn't take me very long to get a hole started. So I have, okay, if he's going to come in the hole, so I can either
Yeah.
get underneath the dredge. I mean, that's far last chance, but do I have an exit strategy where I can disconnect my hose and weights and kind of, go
Float
under the
down.
dredge or beside it, so
Right.
he can lose sight of me for a brief moment, and then just
Right.
kind of float on down out of the way. I mean, I've done that before fly fishing. The
Yeah.
bear be in the water and he's coming right at me, so I'm not going to try to run on the bank or run over. I just submerge in the water and let the river take me down nice and calm.
My
And I
brother
got away from bear.
actually threw a grizzly bear a stringer of fish. He
Yeah,
cut us off from camp, and we were fly fishing, and it was an area where you can catch and you can eat, not the catch and release stuff. And we threw him like a dozen fish, got him all nice and busy, and we're able to get back to our camp. I mean, the things that creative escapes, I
Yeah.
could say.
Just don't stand on top of a truck and put a rock pile up there like I did as a kid. Oh, it's a black bear. I'm going to get on top of the truck. I'm going to throw rocks at it.
Yeah, don't do that. We highly advise you not to do that, especially black bears. Black bears, they are the most curious assholes. And if you throw a rock at it, they're gonna want you to throw another one, and you know where that story's gonna go.
They'll hide behind the tree and wait for you to turn your back. They'll
Yeah.
run away from you when you're looking at them face to face.
Yeah,
This is
black
my
bears-
experience with black bears.
Yeah,
When
black
they get
bears.
behind the tree, right, and then you turn your back, and next thing, and you look back behind you, and there he is coming back out from behind the tree again.
Yeah.
Like, here I come.
I've experienced black bears up north. When I go up north toward the Canadian border, and they're just curious assholes. There's no other description way of explaining them. They are just curious assholes because
They'll tear up your stuff
Well,
that has nothing to do with food.
and they're methodical. They're
Yeah.
very methodical with what they do. They're not just they don't just look and oh yeah, that's a human and they're gonna be like, well, let's try this and let's try
Hey,
that.
You left the window down on that car.
Yeah,
Well,
so,
They definitely like potato salad and Kool-Aid, and they sure taste good in the frying pan.
Well, I think Robert's potato salad was taking a time or two, so
Yeah, once or twice.
with that being said, we are getting to the end of the podcast. Robert, I really freaking appreciate you jumping on the podcast, brother man.
Thank you. Yes.
All the knowledge that you've shared this evening is absolutely freaking phenomenal. Arrow, your first time jumping on the podcast, man.
Great
I
job,
appreciate you finally popping that bubble and getting on here, brother. We asked, what's that?
I'm trying.
I thought he said, I did it. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I'm trying. You didn't do it.
Yeah,
No.
if you want later on, we can get into the more of the nitty gritty of the beast and how that
Yeah.
come about and how to set it up. And
Well, and that's the thing, Robert. We still have the other juicy stuff that we need to get into. The beast that I love to call it. You guys have seen it in the PB group with what he runs his dirt through. There's so many more things that we'd love to get into. He says pay dirt. Okay, fine. Beat myself up by saying dirt. I've heard other guys say it. I've been saying it for years, but okay, I will change the ways and I will fix that. But with that being said, I appreciate. What's that, Arrow?
Washing rock. I'm
Wash,
gonna go
dude,
out and watch.
I'm just gonna say that. I'm just gonna say washing rocks now.
There you go.
Well, that's what I do. It's like, what are you doing
Watching
this week,
rocks,
this
man.
summer? So, what do you do for a living? Oh, I wash rocks.
I clean the bottom of
Yeah.
of the rivers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a crack cleaner.
Yeah, exactly. No, I appreciate all you guys jumping on this evening. All the PB family, everybody on the YouTube channel. Robert, I appreciate you jumping on. Arrow, like I said earlier, I appreciate you getting on here and getting the feel for it, man. I really want to get you on much more podcasts and master classes. It's a lot of fun, you know, and Robert, he's such an awesome freaking guy. We regularly talk on the phone quite a bit about multiple different things. James, of course, my right-hand man. I love you, bro. I appreciate you jumping on the podcast.
Thanks, man.
Everybody here, Charlie, Christy, Sergio, my man, all the rest of the folks, Rob. Yeah, we have so many other guys and gals on here. I appreciate you guys jumping on.
Sergio.
Yeah, with that being said, we have let's see, Shannon Poe doing the hard rock mining third part and last part of the masterclass series with Shannon and Jerry Clements next week, Thursday at 5 p.m. Do not miss that because it's going to be an absolutely phenomenal third part of the series, and we might be doing a giveaway, but I don't want to say anything more on that. We just might be doing a giveaway. Aside from that, we also have special guest Adam Samarco coming up in the next few weeks. Awesome. Everybody's been calling him freaking Uncle Adam. I've been seeing awesome stuff with that guy. I cannot wait till we get him on the podcast in the next few weeks. So with that being said, James, Robert, Arrow, you guys have a freaking phenomenal rest of your evening.
Brother.
Is there any other things that we would like to say before we jump off of here and get some food in our stomachs?
One more. Robert, thanks a lot for coming on, bro. Really appreciate it.
It's been a privilege.
You know, I love our friendship. I know Jared and I will be up there at some point. You'll see our ugly mugs. And, we'll have a good old time. You know, we'll let Arrow tag along, you know, but it'll all be good.
Okay, I have to answer this quick question. Who's the slowest person?
Who's what?
It depends. Are you talking mentally, physically, or emotionally?
Well, we need somebody to distract the bear.
Well, that's whoever runs the slowest.
Yeah.
Me?
Hey, Arrow, look, a piece of gold.
I'm just going to tell those guys say better.
Yeah, just give me a shout.
What's that, Arrow?
I'm just going to tell them that those guys say better.
He's going to tell the bear that we're not better.
No, that they taste better.
We're definitely going to survive.
We taste better.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's only because I'm already marinated. That's right.
Well,
y'all have beards, so you know you got the flavor saver going on.
I'm just gonna trip it. We're just gonna trip Arrow first. That's the first guy we trip. All right.
Well, now that you said that, y'all are probably gonna trip me, and then you guys are gonna survive. So, oh geez, no, Robert, we'd love to get you on another podcast, brother.
And we will.
It's been absolutely a freaking blast, man. I'd love to get a second part of this Digging Deeper podcast with you. Explain, you know, the beast and all the other goodies, man. I mean, we just barely hit the tip of the iceberg with you. And, you know, I'd love to get you on another podcast if you're more than willing to do that, brother.
Okay, that sounds like a great plan. We can dive in a little bit more on the aspects of the claims and the issues I come across when I'm doing my paperwork. So,
Awesome.
and how I come to this next level.
Right.
So
no, most definitely. Yeah, so with that being said, I appreciate all you guys jumping on tonight, and I hope you guys have a good night. Robert, tune in next week, brother, man.
oh, I'm not going to miss it.
I'm looking forward to some of your comments to post up on this screen, bro.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to this third episode of that masterclass.
Should be a lot of fun.
Where I'm really,
All
Should
right,
be a lot
Arrow.
of fun.
Thanks, man, for coming on tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, dude, I loved it. It was awesome.
It was a lot of
Everybody,
fun.
I hope you guys have a great night. Robert,
Yep.
be safe up in the Alaska, the big AK. Jaron, don't get ran over on the city streets.
Oh, Jesus. All right. With that being said, all of you guys, PB family, everybody on YouTube, first time here, second time, third time, fifth time, I appreciate you guys jumping on this evening. Everybody have a good night, and we will see each other soon.
Have a good one, guys.
See